Call this City Council meeting to order. And for those that are able, would you please rise for our national anthem and then our land acknowledgement.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendourok, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The City of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Okay, on to adopt an agenda. There are several additions to the agenda tonight. We have 5 delegations, 2 that are in-house, 3 that are written, that have been added. 1 attachment containing additional community input has been added under report 2025-19, and a confidential memorandum has been added to the agenda under closed session items as item 18.2F. If I could have Councillors Bodner and Hoyle move that council agenda dated January 28, 2025 be confirmed as amended. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? There are no proclamations. We have 3 presentations this evening. Our first presentation is the Niagara South Coast Tourism Association organizational update, and I'll call on Mr. Greg Higginbotham, our tourism coordinator on the Niagara South Coast Tourism Association.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. It's my pleasure to be here to provide an organizational update on Niagara South Coast Tourism Association. Next slide, please. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to provide and walk you through a bit of a history of the organization, our journey to the present, the importance of having a DMO here in Port Colborne, and what our organization has planned for 2025 using the budget that's been allocated to it. Next slide, please. While the beginnings of the organization do predate my time with the City of Port Colborne, I believe in that time, with the information that's been given to me, I have a pretty good grasp on the work that was done to run the South Coast Tourism Association, to build up a base of supporters along the way. And the association did bump up against some challenges at the beginning, with funding probably being the most significant. And what happened with the South Coast in terms of funding and being able to stay active is pretty common for grassroots organizations. Next slide, please. One positive outcome that did come out of the South Coast out of the pandemic for the South Coast, is that it allowed the organization to rebuild, leverage a COVID relief grant that injected some capital into the organization to reestablish itself as a destination marketing organization. And you'll probably see throughout the presentation, I have included the acronym DMO, which we sometimes take for granted and don't mention in the tourism world, that stands for Destination Marketing Organization. Destination Marketing Organization. Next slide, please. In this journey to the present, so we're talking about the period between 2021 to 2024, when I last made a presentation to Council about Niagara South Coast Tourism Association. In that time, I've been working with the board to strategize around taking what we had accomplished using that grant and developing the organization and ensuring that we have a long-term sustainable plan to keep it active. As you can see on this slide, and I know that you're undoubtedly aware of this, the municipal accommodation tax plays a very big role in the long-term plan for Niagara South Coast, especially from a funding perspective. Next slide, please. Now this visual gives you a little bit of an understanding as to where the South Coast DMO, Destination Marketing Organization, covers, and in relation to the other municipalities in the Niagara region, as well as the organizations at the regional, provincial, and federal levels that are promoting Canada and all the destinations within it as tourism destinations. And I've been very fortunate, I think, to have the board's guidance and their support in engaging who were the original members of the Niagara South Coast Tourism Association and helping them see the value that they'll receive with this partnership in Niagara South Coast. And I think, if I were to put myself in the shoes of these other municipalities, as a city, if we were asked to join this organization that's mostly been inactive, I think we would probably have our reservations about whether there's going to be some benefits in joining it. So I just wanted to put into perspective for council that, that timeline that I gave you shows that we've been working for a good number of years to, with the original municipal members, to have them see that there are going to be benefits in joining the Niagara South Coast Tourism Association. And personally speaking, for me, it's been really rewarding to see the city take a leadership role, not only because it makes sense geographically when you look at the layout of the Niagara region, and also this ecosystem of destinations that starts at the regional level and works up all the way to the national level with Destination Canada, but it also is the smart move to make strategically. Next slide, please. So the importance of the DMO, I just wanted to make sure that it's known that this is not a new framework that we've kind of come up with here in Niagara. It's a global framework that's adopted by destinations all around the world as a way to generate tourism demand, which just means, to encourage people to visit the destinations that you're promoting. And a lot of this goes back to developing the tourism economy. So we all know that when people are out there enjoying the destinations that they visit, they also happen to be spending a lot of money at the same time. And in today's day and age with inflation and the cost of living, what it is, you see, in some of the numbers that I've pulled here from a regional level, you can see that tourism is important to our regional economy. Next slide, please. So we've approached the member municipalities by asking them what they felt comfortable contributing on an annual basis. And we know that many of them do not have the municipal accommodation tax like we do in Port Colborne, so they would be drawing from their levies to make a contribution to Niagara South Coast. And the numbers that you see here are what these municipalities feel comfortable contributing at this stage in the organization's trajectory. And I'm happy to report that we have 3 municipalities that have pooled together just over $25,500 towards Niagara South Coast Tourism Association. The City of Port Colborne is matching that contribution using the municipal accommodation tax. And I know also that to some people these numbers may seem small, but I think it's a reflection of the significant progress that we've made over the last couple of years to secure these contributions, and with them, I think as a group, we can now invest in areas that will really yield some returns and demonstrate value for all the partners involved in Niagara South Coast. And without these contributions, and I think this speaks a little bit to the starting of the organization where there was some difficulty in securing contributions. Now that we have them and we've been able to pool them together, we will be able to function effectively as a destination marketing organization. Next slide, please. And just for comparison purposes, you have a visual of the 2024 profit and loss statement for the organization. And that $32,000 that you see in our budget is funded by the City of Port Colborne through its portion of the municipal accommodation tax, which the city is required to share with its destination marketing organization as per the municipal accommodation tax regulation. And then we have the 2025 forecasted budget, and with the recent change in the municipal accommodation tax in Port Colborne, you see that the South Coast is now fortunate to have the kind of capital in its operating budget that will allow the City of Port Colborne and its partners to co-invest in marketing, which you see here is just over $97,000, and other initiatives that will develop our destinations and make them more attractive to visitors and tourists. On a final note, our marketing plans now with a $97,000 marketing campaign, which I'll touch on my final slide, is going to now give us a better chance at creating the kind of awareness and exposure for the south of Niagara than compared to previous years. And a lot of that also has to do, I have to give some credit to the Tourism Partnership of Niagara and their partnership program, which has allowed us to increase that marketing budget so that we could be effective promoters of South Coast destinations. And in closing, is just a little bit of a highlight as to what we have planned for 2025. So we do plan to go to market with a campaign that is matched by funding from the Tourism Partnership of Niagara, using some of the contributions you saw on a previous slide. We do plan to refresh our destination guide and website. Now that we've also, the website, if you see it today, is really just reflective of Port Colborne, Waynfleet, and Fort Erie. And we just recently had, as of September of last year, with a report that went to their council, the town of Pelham endorsed joining Niagara South Coast Tourism Association. So therefore, we have to do a little bit of just refreshing some content to make sure that they feel represented and included. And then we have some exciting niche tourism projects underway to develop Indigenous tourism in the south of Niagara, agritourism, cycle tourism, and more details will come out about those projects and initiatives in the coming months. We continue to collaborate as much as possible, as is the whole reason why we wanted to reactivate and rebuild Niagara South Coast Tourism Association, is to partner and to collaborate. So we'll continue to be doing that with the Tourism Partnership of Niagara, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and the Niagara Geopark. And a final question that I often get is, how come the board is not yet sort of representative of all the municipalities that are making contributions? Well, we do have an excellent steering committee that's made up of representatives from the partner municipalities. It's kind of like a working group, and it's been very effective. And we do find that in time, when we hit the mark of sort of looking at the 2-year commitment, and if the municipalities are in agreement to renewing that commitment, then we foresee that the steering committee will evolve into a board with greater and equal representation. And next slide. Just want to say thank you to council and your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Councilors, questions? Councilor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Greg. Greg, certainly since you came on, is it 3 years now or 2?
Just 4 as of the beginning of this month.
Okay, all right. Well, we certainly have seen an uptick in this, in the events and that are happening, because we have a professional doing it rather than trying to do it on our own, kind of. So thank you for that. And I'm glad you touched on the amount contributed by each municipality. It does, on first blush, look kind of weird that Port's putting in that much. But because we have the DMO, we can charge the municipal accommodation tax. That does give us funding to keep us moving forward and getting better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions? Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. Greg, thanks for the presentation. I'm not sure that maybe the general public understands this, but so the municipal accommodation tax is a tax on visitors coming. So these numbers that you mentioned are not coming from residential property taxes. So the marketing in Port Colborne from a tourism perspective is being funded by tourists. Is that correct or fair to say?
Through your worship to Councillor Bruno, that is fair to say. The municipal accommodation tax is, in a sense, a tax that's charged on the visitors and applied by the accommodation sector. The accommodation sector is not paying the tax themselves. They are simply the administrators of the tax on behalf of the municipality. They are putting it on the guest's bill, and that money goes back to, as the province has legislated, to what they call an eligible tourism entity. In our case, it's a destination marketing organization, and you'll see that across the province, and there's probably more than 50 now municipalities that have the municipal accommodation tax. They're required to share 50% of the revenue to a DMO or a tourism entity, and that DMO is required by the legislation to put that money into its share of the revenue into the promotion of tourism. So that goes into generating more overnight stays and room nights in destinations by leveraging those funds to promote tourism. So it's a really beneficial mechanism that the tourism industry now has to sustainably promote itself.
Just two more if I could. So currently the MAT tax, though, because we don't have a short-term rental program set up. So there's the ability that this fund can grow once we get the short-term rental bylaw and those in place. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Bruno, that's correct. The treasurer has forecasted, and you'll see the budget that I've presented is a forecast, and we will continue to monitor the municipal accommodation tax activity and how that relates to our future forecasting for the Niagara South Coast Tourism Association.
Great, and because that's 50%, although it's not part of your presentation with Niagara South Coast, I don't know if I could turn to the acting CEO or treasurer to talk about the other half of that money. So I think people need to know that if we're putting $50,000 into the DMO, there's still another 50 that goes into the city coffers. And I don't know if you can explain to the public perhaps what we're doing with that money to offset property tax money going into those tourism activities.
Mr. Bowles.
Through the mayor to the councillor and council, so the main area where the city portion has gone to offset some of the costs for canal days. But something I will point out with the great presentation that you've done, Greg, if you just go back 2 slides to the financials right there, you will see that for the first time we've been able to move some of the salaries and wages and the fishing tournament programs off of the levy into this program as well, because this program will be funding those through the MAT tax. So actually, I guess from a city's perspective, it was a double win. Part of the costs will be offsetting canal days, and we were able to move some of the city's tourism costs into this corporation and not leave them on the levy.
Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Bagu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few comments and questions, Greg, through you, Mr. Mayor. First one is on your funding. Under core and MET, you got $144,425. Where's that coming from? Is that from Port Colborne?
So, yeah, through your worship to Councillor Bagu, yes, the number on the first, the numbers on the first line there, particularly core, you see that it totals $170,000. That is the forecasted amount that of half or 50% of the revenue from the municipal accommodation tax that is required to go to the DMO as per the regulation. And so it's been forecasted that the total revenue for 2025 from the MAT program will be around $340,000.
Okay, so the core, the 144,000 is from Port Colborne?
Yes,
Our
it
mat
is.
tax, okay. So, I just took that as a contribution, 25,575, it's more than that, actually, it's, the mat tax is 144,000.
Yep, the
But,
only,
okay.
sorry, through your worship to Councillor Bagu, the only contribution that the city is making is not really a contribution in a voluntary sense. I mean, it's required that the municipality, by having a municipal accommodation tax, share its revenue with a DMO or a tourism entity, and in this case, the city of Port Colborne is required to share half of its revenue with Niagara South Coast Tourism Association. So there's no other contribution that's being made to this DMO other than through the municipal accommodation tax.
And our mat tax has to go into something like this, it can't go into, lessen the tax levy on our citizens, it has, right?
Mr. Bowles?
Through the mayor to the councilor and council, so just to be absolutely, for everybody to understand, there is no taxpayer dollars going to the Niagara South Coast. None of it is taxpayer dollars. The only dollars that are coming here is because as visitors come, and many of us have gone to other jurisdictions where there's a charge on your accommodation. It's anywhere between 2% and 4%, so that's now being charged. That will be collected by the city. The city will keep 170,000, and we're putting 170,000 here. And the 170,000 for the city, we did talk about it, and it was a while ago during the budget process. That's going to be used to offset canal days and some of our other tourism costs. And then we've also moved some of the tourism costs into this corporation, including part of our salary costs that we put to it. So the city is actually kind of benefiting more than its 170,000 share, the way we've done it. I think it's a good financial mechanism to recoup costs and lower the tax burden.
And these funds cannot go to fixing our water pipes, they have to go through tourism, right? Okay, just so somebody can say, I could not fix my pipe on Councilor, his street. It seems like the other municipalities are feeling us out by giving us the amount of money they are. I'm sure they spend quite a bit of money on their own tourism in their own municipalities. So would it be good neighbors to actually put one on each municipality on our board to show good faith? Like here you're giving us money for 2 years, but you're not gonna be a board member. But after 2 years, we'll reevaluate you. I think for good neighbors, you know, I think they should be on, at least one from each municipality. We can still get another one, I'll vote them, no problem. I got no problem with that. And I know this started with the COVID grant was like $473,000 that we got on this one here. And I do agree with promoting tourism in Fort Erie. I don't know if they're going for a mat tax or not. You got short-term rental tax now, but so maybe if we get them on our board to show good faith, maybe when they do, these municipalities do have a mat tax, that we'll all join together. Just something to think about anyway. So I know it's not your decision. We got 3 other ones here. Well, 2 for sure. I don't know about you, Mr. Mayor, where the hell you're gonna be pretty soon, but, okay, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you,
on the
Mr.
board
Mayor.
level, Counselor, I think Counselor Bodnar can probably answer the question the best, because he's been on this organization through its different iterations throughout the years. So I think this was a compromise we had with those municipalities where we can get it up and running and prove to them that the DMO does work, and it'll work with the organization or the municipalities that have come on board with us. So it's not that they've asked and we've said no. The working group was probably the best route that they wanted to go. I mean, these were all discussions that were had, so they felt that leave the board like it is, do over 2 years, and then reform the board as they increase either their funding, their mat tax, whatever they're gonna do over these next couple of years, and how they can get even more involved in this. So you're gonna, I believe you would see that happen. It has happened in the past, but it did fall apart at times. But I think the way it's been set up now is way better. Counselor, do you wanna add anything?
No, I just think there's been a great deal of work done by Greg behind the scenes and other people to explain that this will happen, like the mayor said. Nothing like putting your money forward and stepping up, then you get a chance on the board. So it's kind of a put your money forward, but also we have to prove to them that it can work to the benefit of everybody, and then, you know, that'll be just fine.
Counselor, you're all set? Okay. Counselor Beauregard.
Through your worship to Greg. Last time you presented this to us, I believe I asked where other municipalities were at in whether or not they were going to proceed with a MAT tax. I believe you said some of them were interested in doing so. I'm just wondering if there's been any further movement with our partnering municipalities in their future with a MAT tax.
Through your worship to Councillor Beauregard, we continue to, as through myself and through the hat that I wear at times for Niagara South Coast Tourism Association, to explain the benefits of having a municipal accommodation tax to the other municipalities that don't have them, and why they would want to consider it, because as the Treasurer Acting CAO explained, it now takes the responsibility of making a contribution to Niagara South Coast off of the local taxpayer in those municipalities. And that's the original intent behind the creation of the municipal accommodation tax. All we can continue to do is recommend that they consider it. And I've offered my assistance because I helped with implementing the process here. I've offered to help, get them in touch with anyone and anyone that they feel would be beneficial to help them make a decision as to whether they want to implement the municipal accommodation tax in their municipality. It's totally voluntary, as it was here in Port Colborne, and all we can continue to do is tell them that I think demonstrate to them using the example that we have here in Port Colborne how it's beneficial for our municipality and how it leads to the proper functioning of our destination marketing organization that we've been working hard to reactivate these last few years.
All set, Counselor? Any further questions? See none? Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Next item is 7.2, Lighthouse Festival, Roselawn Theatre, 2020-2024. We have Stephanie Powell-Baswick, our Director of Museum and Culture, and Caitlin O'Neill, the Operations Manager for Lighthouse Festival. Welcome, Caitlin and Steph.
Good evening. Pleased to be here, the Director of Museum and Culture. Pleased to be here with my colleague next door. We have a wonderful partnership. We're going to take you a little bit through the slides. We're going to tell you about our future plans and answer any questions you may have. So, Caitlin, take it away.
All right. Listen, my name is Caitlin O'Neill. Thank you for having me today. I'm eager to show how our partnership has grown over the last 5 years since we took on managing Roselawn Theatre. Next slide, please. The discussion around our management of the theatre did start late 2019, early 2020. We couldn't foresee what was happening or what was going to happen. But we, in our discussions, understood from the city that you were looking to take a building that was underutilized and increase the programming that was offered there and increase the cultural diversity that was available at the City of Port Colborne. So we were really excited to enter into that discussion and see what we could provide, being, at the time, your largest renter in that space. Of course, the discussions were impacted by the pandemic, but we both felt confident and wanted to move forward with the agreement to know that when we came out the other side, that there would be a significant impact to the space. Next slide, please. So that we came into the agreement in 2020, we didn't have much that we were able to do because there were government mandated closures for all live entertainment. So in that time, we were trying to look forward and see what were opportunities going to be presented under those government mandates and closures, as well as how could we get into the space and make some slight improvements. So we did replace the floor, set up a new bar area. We increased some of the technology that runs the sound and lights in the theater. theater, and of course, very exciting for us, we set up a very large shop that we had not had access to before, so we were able to bring the building of sets in-house. So that's something we had outsourced prior to this. So we did not present any live theater in 2020, but we were making sure that when the mandates would change, we would have the ability to start right away. Next slide, please. In 2021, late summer, the government did lift those mandates to say that we could have live entertainment for capped audiences that needed to be socially distanced. So we did present 2 productions, Beyond the Sea by Kristen De Silva and Old Love by Norm Foster. Within our spaced out seating and caps, we were able to put on 28 performances and just over 1,200 people attended, which was about 61% of the available seats that we were able to do under the cap. And so we thought that was a good start considering what the world was still in, and was very encouraging to us that there were some people who were willing to say it was worth it to come out for theater and they felt comfortable and safe under the space that we had created. Next slide, please. We also took on a rebranding in 2021. Under the management, we knew that we wanted it to be easy and clear for patrons when they came to know what kind of program could they see and where could they attend that programming. We know that when we were operating just as Lighthouse Festival Theatre, that a lot of our patrons were coming from the Hamilton and Burlington area, and for them it's equal distance to both venues. So we wanted them to have an easy way that they could see what was available, what the dates were, and what location to go to. It gave the brand some more impact, and we were able to use the existing brand of Lighthouse and then grow it and see that impact here in Port Colborne. We had to completely rebuild everything. It took a lot to kind of think, how do you put it all together but make sure that each city has its own identity? And so we did that with the use of colors on our website, and it's worked very well. We're seeing a lot of patrons visiting both theaters. Thank you. In 2022, it was time to reopen. We had been spending a lot of time speaking to our peers. We're a member of PACT, which is the Professional Association of Canadian Theatres. And in our discussion, which is primarily theatres that operate in rural Ontario, it was really felt that returning at full programming level was going to be the best way forward if possible. I must say we give a lot of credit to Tim Jennings, who is the executive director of Shaw, because he was really steering that ship. And we had the ability, thankfully. We had had some very prosperous years prior to the pandemic and had a nice reserve built up. So we decided to make that go, and we put a full season on in 2022, releasing subscriptions in February. And we're pleased to see that more than 70% of our subscribers did return. Single tickets didn't come back nearly as well, and overall, we saw about 80% of our 2019 audience return, which we were quite happy with. And in looking around the industry, we would have been sort of a top performer. On average, most were seeing 40% attendance, and we were in around 61%. So we were very glad to see that. We also took the opportunity to introduce the season topper to the Port Colborne Theatre, which is like a music review that we do at the end of the season. And we also brought a winter production, which was a first for us. It was actually a play that had been developed by Lighthouse for 3 writers that were local to Norfolk. It was their first time writing a play. They were mentored by our artistic director, and then we put it on stage for them, and it was called Tip of the Iceberg. It was very well received. So we knew that not only had we returned to our main season programming, but there was interest in programming outside of just our summer. And then, of course, we also looked to open up the rentals so that there were third-party promoters who were interested in the space, and we can now say that we were open and had some opportunities for them. Next slide. Thank you. Moving into 2023, we continued to expand programming. We now run March break programming for families. We had 21 rental events, including the author series from the Friends of Roselawn. Those fit into the spring and the winter months for us. We did our main programming of the main season, which is 5 plays plus the season topper. And we knew that the winter programming had been successful the year before, so we introduced a pantomime. More family programming. A pantomime is sort of an exaggerated fairy tale that's told with song and dance and a lot of comedy and local references built into the scripts. So we did Jack and the Beanstalk that first year. It was a little bit not the audience response that we had expected expected. We learned we had to introduce what is a pantomime to the audiences. We were struck with how many people trusted us with what they thought was going to be a 2-hour mime performance and had to say, no, it won't be a mime performance, you'll have a better time than that. But they came and trusted us, so we felt very strong in that. Though we saw an increase in our subscriptions and a slight increase in our single tickets, we were still lagging behind where we were in 2019 in rebuilding that audience. We also took time this year to introduce relaxed performances. This was a program that we'd applied to from the Ontario Trillium Foundation prior to the pandemic. They allowed us to defer until we were in a position to be able to do that, and so we piloted our first relaxed performance in 2023, which was great, and there were a lot of groups within Port Colborne, including Port Cares, that latched onto that and said, we have friends, we have clients who would benefit from this type of program. Next slide, please. And then we take to our most recent season. So we did see some growth in our subscriptions, but this is the year that, or last year I guess, is the year that single tickets really took off. We saw a 15% increase, which was great because we knew that there were some people who were never going to return to theater, but there were also some people who had never been to theater and maybe wanted to try that introduction. So we really saw that this past summer, and are hoping, you know, for all theaters, especially for Lighthouse right now, we're really looking at retention and introduction. Those, I mean, it seems quite obvious, but really, really looking to retain those who have come and introduce ourselves to those who don't know us. We had 31 rental events. That fills up almost our entire rental schedule, which is fantastic. And we continued to run the pantomime in the winter. We're still about 9% away from our 2019 attendance rates for our main season, but overall, the number of people who have come into the theater and enjoyed a live performance has grown significantly with the expansion of the overall programming that has been put into place. Thank you. I wanted to share, since underutilization was a lot of the driver for this relationship, that the facility use right now, 52% of the calendar year is filled with a live performance of some sort. It might be a play or a concert or an author series. And then also to acknowledge that about 21% of the year we take to do turnovers between plays, but also to maintain the building and the equipment. So 73% of the calendar year, the building is in use or in preparation to host live entertainment. You can see here that the breakdown is that we prioritize Lighthouse Festival productions. We like to produce as much as we can in-house and then fill the rest of the space with rental events. And of course, always leave room for special events with the city. We've hosted a couple. We're looking to host some more and just continue that great partnership. For our community impact, we have about 34 volunteers, and that number grows every year, who help come and usher, check tickets, and make that patron experience as good as it can be. And overall, they put in about 1,400 hours, which is incredible, and we're very appreciative to them for that. We have about 6 part-time roles and 4 full-time roles that operate out of that building all year round, facilitating the technical side, but also the patron experience side. And we've established a lot of community partnerships in the last 5 years. We facilitate the selling of the tickets for the Port Colborne Operatic Society and support them administratively. We work with Frank's Home Building Center to get a lot of the supplies for our sets. Breakwall Brewery is at our bar. Smoking Booty and Canal Side are restaurant partners, and we do a lot of promoting to our patrons to eat before or after they see a show. And Gourmet at Home is the caterer for our opening night performances. So we really wanted to make as many partnerships within the city as we could, knowing that we were relatively new here. In terms of tourism impact, we know that 17% of the people who attend our main season travel for more than 40 kilometers, which is what the Ministry of Tourism identifies as a tourist who has traveled more than 40 kilometers. We know that even though they're not traveling more than 40 kilometers, we're pulling quite strong numbers from the rest of the Niagara region who are coming in. We know 174 patrons visited Roselawn Theatre from the USA last year, and we know that 69% of our attendees visit a restaurant before or after performance, and 38% are going into a shop. In terms of trying to expand our tourism reach, we also attend the Ontario Motor Coach Association conference every year, and we work with the city to match with your tourism initiatives so that we can all work together. For our partnership, as Steph said, it's an honor to work with Steph and her staff, who are incredible. We've been very pleased to host our top donor dinner in the Double Parlor for 2 years. We work to manage scheduling so that if there's large event requests like weddings, we can work around those. Any time that we're asked and we can make it work, we provide access to our green rooms or the technical supply that we have. And of course, we offer complimentary tickets to city staff and Rose on staff so that they can enjoy the place themselves, host if they need to, or just share the joy of live theater with their families. We also do what we can to promote what's going on in the museum, because we know it's very easy for patrons to go back and forth. So in our programs and on our screens, we talk about what is being featured at the museum for that week, that month, however it may run. Including, we'll be supporting the Beneath the Mansard Roof exhibit this year, pulling from some of the Showboat Festival archives.
That's right, and really just I wanted to add as well, you know, arts and culture is alive and well in Port Colborne, and we're very grateful for this partnership. The contract will be up for renewal, so you'll see us back here asking for a renewal of this partnership so that we can do further strategic planning, long-term planning. But it really does dovetail well into what we do as Department of Museum and Culture under the Committee of Council, the Board of Management, and what Lighthouse do. Often you'll hear us say we have a show coming, we have a concert coming. As Caitlin had said, they're very supportive of making sure that the needs of Friends of Rosemont as well as our volunteers are met. We've been able to really benefit from some of these partnerships, getting through some of our own goals. One great example of that is the Music on the Lawn is an event that has become popular, it would be continuing this year, and they provide access to that ground floor accessible washroom until we can get our accessibility ramp up and running later this year. We also have been really trying to plan together, so our exhibits open before the matinee to give that hour beforehand, come, have a look, maybe grab lunch, and then go to the show. And that really worked well this winter with our Season's Greetings children's art exhibit with the Panto. So we feel that going forward, the more we know that we're working together, the better we're going to see. And we're here for any questions that you may have for us.
Great. Caitlin, Steph, excellent presentation, and it's good to see that live theater is doing so well in Port Colborne. Not just you, but with our Port Colborne Operatic Society, who's getting ready to set their new show. Questions? Councillor Baggio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I do have a question. Do you have any local schools going through the theater, or the high schools, or do you go to the high school? Do they come there, or?
Through Mayor Steele to Councillor Baggio, thank you for the question. We do, with this high school right next door, we do look to them to present opportunities to volunteer, to get their volunteer hours. And when we have the family programming, especially the Panto, we reach out to the schools to see if they'd like to hold a school group. We know sometimes there are prohibitive costs for busing and things like that, but we're building those relationships so that when we have family programming, they can be involved, but also opening up the opportunity for volunteers.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a little note. I've been dealing with Public Works, and when this came up on the agenda, reminded me from last August. Sorry, I apologize. That some of the signage in the city directs people to Showboat Theater. And I spent about an hour today driving around our fine city looking for the Showboat Theater signs, and I will forward them to Curtis, who's sitting in the back hiding, and to Steve, and give you an update on the signs. So, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Very impressive. We've always known we have a dynamo in Stephanie here, and now it looks like we have a dynamic duo here.
That's right.
Very impressive work. You've come a long way. Love partnerships. I'm kind of a data junkie, and so I'm wondering if you do analytics on, like you've sort of touched the surface with the US and the more than 40 kilometers. But I'm wondering if you drill down any deeper, like age, gender, income, all of that stuff as a way to grow the business, if you will.
Through Mayor Steele, thank you, Councillor Bruno. Yes, we do. We rely mainly on survey information to gather that. When we have purchase of tickets, we can get your postal code, and that kind of helps us with distance, and that's a big indicator for the grants that we apply to. But for ourselves, we do send out surveys regularly to get an idea of age, employment status, income, if they're willing to share. And then we also look to gather what other entertainment do they take in? Do they visit other theaters in the region, outside the region? What other hobbies might they take on that we can look for partnerships to align, but also know what is the mentality. So offhand, I can share with you that the average age of our main season attendees is between 65 and 70. The rental events skew a bit younger than that, depending on, of course, what the content of the rental is. The majority of our attendees are retired or work part-time. So those are the main elements. We don't have as much in terms of household income right now, again, because we're asking people to volunteer that information forward. That's one of the questions that gets skipped the most in our survey.
If I could, I have family members in the GTA who do the bus tour routes, and they've come to Port Colborne to witness the performances. And when I'm at lunch with them or everything, they rave about how you work. So that's sort of from an outside critic, out-of-town person, it's, I get good feedback. One of the things I wanted to know, you might all remember a number of years ago, the idea in growing Niagara Falls tourism was to get them to stay an extra day, or more importantly, extend the season. So, when I look at those restaurant numbers, Port Colborne's restaurants are thriving, and bars and canal days and places to stay and all of that in July and August. So how can we help you extend that into September and May or beyond? You talked about some good experimentation in that winter program, but certainly I'd be supportive of helping, whether it's funds, advertising, or whatever, or a destination marketing organization, to try and grow the shoulder seasons so our businesses could thrive and not have to just rely on making it in the summer to carry them through the winter. So is there anything we can do in cooperation with you to extend the season, shoulders, winter, that kind of stuff?
Through Mayor Steele to Councillor Bruno, thank you. Our season right now runs June until the second week of October, so we've got a little bit of that extension going right now. And then our winter programming is generally in the second, third week of December. Prior to the pandemic, we were actually on the cusp of a season expansion, which would have taken the programming from 2 weeks here in Port Colborne to 3 weeks. We're not financially at that position, but it is a goal that we're reaching towards again to extend that out, because that would be 6 additional weeks of programming, which would push it from June to early October, from May until late October. How you directly can help, I'd like to take that back if that's okay, that offer. I definitely think that there are ways, but I'd like to involve more of my team in looking at that option. I appreciate it.
One more. The reason I asked you about analytics is because we have all these great entities in Port Colborne who advertise and do their own marketing, but I'm not so sure they cross-pollinate in the sense that, if you do collect names and emails and that, and they agree to be permissitory that we can reuse that, I've always thought it would be great to take your people and advertise Harvest Fest or advertise the car show or advertise Canal Days, and so that all these names that come to Port Colborne can get, obviously with their permission, you're not going to spam them, what's going on the rest of the year in Port Colborne. So I don't know if there's any of that sharing, or you've contemplated it?
Through Mayor Steele to Councillor Bruno, I think that's definitely an opportunity that we should look at. We would love to look at a partnership where we can expand the information to our patrons of what is going on the rest of the year, or in connection to a program that they're coming to at the theater. Absolutely. We also know that there's not always a central area where a patron could go to say, where do I stay, where do I eat, what do I do? And so we'd be very interested in having some discussions around where could that central repository be so that we can contribute to it.
Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That repository of information could be the Niagara South Coast Tourism Association.
Yes.
And in years past, just to put a plug in for that, the Ontario Motor Coach Association for 4 years in a row, early on in Niagara South Coast Tourism Association, one of our board members attended that for 4 years in a row. And it was, Showboat was part of that at the time, information and everything. So it certainly is there, and I'm sure Greg has you on the radar. And Councillor Bruno said a lot. I'm not going to go over that, what he said, but I think one of the best partnerships that we created as a city is when we moved Steph and her group in to that area. And it's just gelled nicely. And besides the theater part, I'm looking at some people that actually do work at Roselawn over there from the museum. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say thank you to them. So, but anyways, great presentation. And, oh yes, a pantomime. I went to the last two. You said they had to get the word out. This isn't anything like you've been at if you haven't been there. You get to boo and cheer and yell at the bad guys. And it's encouraged. And if you see any of the kids that went there, they are just up here. They're just so excited. Yeah. As well as the adults, too. I had to hold my wife down from yelling a little bit. So, all good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions, guys? Further questions? Great. Thanks. Don't go too far, Steph. So next we have our Award of Excellence through the Department of Museum and Culture, and I'll join Stephanie at the podium. On behalf of Council and Brian Bowles, our interim CAO, and Stephanie Powell-Bazick, our Director of Museum and Culture, I'm pleased to announce the 2025 recipients of the Award of Excellence for the Department of Museum and Culture. The 2025 award is presented to a group of volunteers led by Building and Property Chairman Brian Heaslip. The group is dedicated every Thursday afternoon to the conservation and maintenance of heritage within Port Colborne. The recipients of the Department of Museum and Culture 2025 Award of Excellence are the Thursday afternoon crew, Mr. Brian Heaslip, Mr. Terry Huffman, Mr. Sandy McIntyre, Mr. Arnold Pilzecker, Mr. Ed Schatzline, and Mr. James Van Dillen. Gentlemen, thank you. These 6 individuals have made a significant impact on the preservation of the Department of Museum and Culture's heritage buildings, taking on all aspects of project management, from sourcing period-specific materials, providing their own equipment, working with city staff to ensure procedures and policies are followed, and problem solving as they go along. The skills, knowledge, and can-do attitude of this group of gentlemen has made a significant impact on the success of the goals of the museum and City of Port Colborne to serve and preserve. Projects have included the restoration of the Yvonne Dupré tugboat, Arabella's tea room floor and wood restoration, carriage house board and batten replacements, Roselawn renovations of the rental space, offices, programming rooms, upkeep of our log buildings, split rail and picket fences, clearing and restoring attics and basements, and recently planting more than 400 tulip bulbs. Green thumbs. In the spirit of the resourcefulness embodied by the Thursday afternoon crew, museum staff have approached longtime museum supporter, Allied Marine and Industrial, to create the awards being presented here tonight. Metal fabrication shop foreman Francis Dugas took a scrap piece of metal, the flywheel from Terry Huffman's 1984 race car, and with additional materials and time donated by Allied, designed the awards. We thank the project manager, Tony Visca, and metal artist Francis Dugas from Allied Marine for creating these unique awards for our unique volunteers. So at this time, it is with great pleasure and respect for and appreciation of these 6 gentlemen for their loyal and trusted service to the City of Port Colborne, Department of Museum and Culture, that we present the Award of Excellence on the 50th anniversary of the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum. Your legacy of respect for preservation of the heritage and culture of Port Colborne will be admired for the next 50 years. Gentlemen, if we could actually have you come up front.
Brian, you want to come first? Follow you.
Yep. Oh, you had it. Oh, you had it.
Okay, Brian, and then follow the mirror to the
Yeah, we'll-
middle there.
yeah.
Okay.
Go stand right in front of the...
Mr. Huffman, you're next. In order. Thank you very much. Please go for your photo.
Beautiful.
Arnold, you're next. Eddie. Thank you so much, Eddie. You're looking nice tonight.
Thank you.
Sandy. And last but not least, Mr. Van
John
Dillen.
Sandy. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. There you go. And then get your picture with the mayor.
Come on up, Steph.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All righty. Where do you want us, in the end?
Oh, you're in the middle here.
I'm in the middle.
Good time to stretch.
Okay.
Dude, closer. Come close. Don't be shy.
I say that out loud. Don't say that, Gary.
Nobody voted?
Oh, there's somebody else.
Come on up front. All right, next up, we have delegations. We actually have 2 people that are going to be speaking tonight. The other 3 gave a written delegation. Just want to remind our delegations that you are speaking on a report tonight, so you must keep your comments with regards to that report. First, we have Angie Demaray. Angie, come forward. And again, Ange, just name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Angie Demery, and I live at 270 Davis Street here in Port Colborne. So, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and members of the gallery, thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I would just like to start by saying I last addressed you on December 3rd, gave you a whole laundry list of what I would like to see as in the way of public engagement, and I'm so happy to be able to say thank you, because that whole list was pretty much sent back, and it was great. The only one thing that I was wondering about, and I did call Mr. Bowles about this last week, was the virtual town hall. I wanted to see that in both a virtual and an in-person format, and I believe that did happen. Am I correct? I didn't see the addendum, so that will happen, and that is really a great thing. You get one chance to do this right, and we might as well take that time and get it done right. This will give the people of Port Colborne and Wainfleet, to an extent, a good opportunity to make their wishes known to all of you who will be making these decisions. And so it's important that you get the opportunity to receive the comments, and that the people get the opportunity to make the comments. Really very important. So now, having said that, I have real concerns over doing this over 28 days. I just don't understand how that's going to happen. I really believe, considering we have snowbirds, we have February, which is the least likely month where people are going to want to leave their homes. You've got weather can interrupt all kinds of things. I know some of us have to leave their homes a lot in this next month, but for the general public, you're not going to want to do that too often, especially some of the older crowd. And it's important that they be heard on this. So, and many of them have a problem with technology, that sort of thing, so they do need the in-person opportunities. I would actually like to see you stretch this out from it's supposed to start, if I'm correct here, you're looking at getting it started as early as tomorrow? Am I correct? Yeah. It's supposed to start on January 29th, and it's supposed to be finished February 21st, and then all the information will be put together and presented in a report. Well, that's just, it's not enough time. I would like to see you add 60 days to this. Would be the best. Actually, 90 days would be the best, but add 60 days to this. It gives everybody a chance to have their voices heard. It gets a lot of our snowbirds back in place, or at least gives us a chance to get the word out to all of them that they have opportunities to make their voices heard as well. It's important that this be done in the right manner. You don't want to have to come back to the table again, because that argument will be made. So take the time, get it done absolutely the right way. Give the people a chance to really tell you what they want, because that's what you need to know. What did they want? You've heard from various experts and people who work in the various sectors, and they've told you what they think is the right thing to do, but they're not all the people who are going to be affected by this daily. It's going to impact the life of every single person, man, woman, and child in this city and beyond. So let's do it once, do it right, get all that information put together, and then you have what you need to make the decision that you need to make. And whatever that is, we all have to live with it, but you will have been given the chance to know what people want. And that's really all I need to do tonight, is just ask that and say thank you for, following through on this. It was very, very important that be done, and that the public gets a chance to see that if they speak up, their words do carry. That's really important. So I thank you for that. I hope you will consider that when you're considering the report tonight. And that's it.
Thanks, Ange. And just in case we have questions, any questions? Seeing none. Thanks again, Angie. Next speaker is Larry Rosnick. Oh, just press the red button.
Hi, Larry Rosnick, 62 Fraser Street, Port Colborne. I'd like to thank the mayor and council and all the citizens that have come out tonight. It's nice that finally some public input is being put into this very important question, and I appreciate so far what you've been doing. However, I do have concerns. Your plan in this report, in my mind, is skewed and is already partial and is not transparent. Any good pollster can create a survey obtaining desired results. And I feel that this is what council is doing with the promotion that was already in this report. So if you can pull up the report and refer to page 2, paragraph 3, also contribute a 6.2 million local share to support the purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Now, this is like a cruel joke in my mind. It's like saying we're going to build a $3.6 billion hospital, but when you need to go there, you have to bring your own bread and chair. No, I don't think this is the way things should go.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor?
We said that people have to stick to the, what we're asking for this evening.
Yeah, this is taken right out of your report, sir, if you've read it.
What we're doing this evening is setting the stage of where people are going to be able to come, and you're more than welcome to come, to give your views on the project. We're just setting the stage for that. We're not there yet.
Well,
So tonight isn't the night to, give your opinion on this. It's to give your opinion on how we're going to ask for your opinion, really. So I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Mayor, whether you're...
Yeah, we are asking, like Councillor Demery talked about, timing and type of events that we're having for collecting information. Just, if you could just stick to that as opposed to what we're looking for in those meetings, but, because that's where you're gonna go to give those opinions. Thanks, Larry.
Well, if you go to page 2, paragraph 7, it starts with finally. And, I agree with everything that's in this questionnaire, but I would scratch out include multi-residential general rental units. I would keep all the rest. I think this is misleading to the public that you're already involving housing in what essentially should be a Medicare debate and what we're doing with the hospital facility. With today's announcement by the Premier of a $1.4 billion investment in primary care in Ontario, I believe we have to keep the entire hospital, including the nurses' residence, to take full advantage of this. I'm also in favor of the Lakeview Medical Group moving in, as long as it's transparent that their rent is on par with, say, the rent at Bogio's, and we get to see exactly what it is. And if we have the entire facility for more procedure and more...
Again, Larry, we're getting on to the information we want to collect from the public. That's not what tonight's about. We're just trying to talk about procedures on how and when we're going to collect those. Again, I'm going to go back to Angie Demery's comments with regards to timelines, having in-person public, virtual, and open houses.
Okay, sure.
That's, yeah, we're not here to discuss what may or may not happen there. That's what all these people are going to put their thoughts and their pen to paper and get that back to our staff so they can look at that. So if you can just stick to the report there.
I understand, thank you.
Please, yeah, because that's what we're trying to do tonight.
Okay, so, I agree with the way you're reaching out, postcards, public meetings, collecting information and whatnot. But, we don't have enough time to do this, and I agree with Angie Demery. I believe that this should be postponed until all possibilities and solutions are put out there for the people to look at. And as I said, the documents in this report are biased. So there's no rush to get this happening. The hospital doesn't become part of the city if we buy it, and I agree we should buy it until 2028. There's lots of time. People need more input, more information. And on page 7, the strategic plan alignment should be stricken because housing should not be part of the debate. So I believe that whatever questionnaires, postcards, information you're going to put out there to the public, I would like to see them presented to us and the people that have a stake in this to look at, to make sure these communications to the public for their input are not biased and all possibilities are considered. You know, you're looking for $6.2 million from the taxpayers. You've got developers chomping on the bit for lakefront property. I have a plan for you. Sell the marina. This is what we should do. Every baby,
Okay, Larry.
child.
Can we get back to the report, please? We're not talking about what we're doing with marinas. Like, we're trying to collect
Well, you
information,
should
but
be,
we're
Your
trying
Honor.
to.
You should be.
We're trying, well, that's what we're here for. We're trying to set
Well,
a pattern
obviously
so that
not.
we can run some meetings with our public, take as much information as we can, and set those parameters. We've talked about timelines, and again, I'm gonna go back to Angie's comments. I think they were great comments to take to this council. I need you to stick to that.
Well,
'Cause what
can
you're
we-
talking about is stuff that, please put that down on paper for when you're answering questions and going to the public meetings or virtual or open houses that we have. That's where we want that information, so staff can put all that together and bring a report back to council at some point in the future.
So I have a
But
question
I
to
just
you.
ask you to stick to those
All right,
parameters, please.
I'm almost
Thanks.
finished.
Good,
I
thank
just
you.
have one question. Will we get to review the documents and questionnaire you're going to be putting out to the public before it's made public? As I said, pollsters can skew anything to the desired result that perhaps you might want, but not what we might want.
You're
Is that a
talking about
possibility?
the report that's coming back from all the information that's collected?
No, to see the questionnaires, everything you're going to send out and present to the public before it's presented.
Well, staff's
think-
gonna be, Larry's staff is gonna be putting all that together.
Right, and can we see it before it's given out to the public?
Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the mayor to council and the presenter, at present time, we do plan to go live tomorrow.
Sorry?
At present time, we plan to go live tomorrow. It'll be subject to when council gets a chance to debate the report later in the meeting. The presentation or the questionnaire has been developed with the questions from the mayor's health working group. It's been done with the questions from Fort Erie, and it's been done with the information from the report that council saw in December. So those three locations or those three sources were the genesis of creating the questions for the questionnaire.
So again, I would like to emphasize and agree with Angie, we need more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Any questions, council? Good, thank you. Next, on to item 9, the mayor's report. Microphone, please, Mary. Item 9, the mayor's report. Over the course of 3 days at the Rural Ontario Municipalities Association Conference last week, our team met with 10 provincial ministers and parliamentary assistants to present our cases for funding and support. It was a busy run January 19th to 21st at the Rome event in Toronto, attended by about 200 municipal teams from across the province. Our team included Councillor Tim Hoyle, Gary Long, our Director of Development and Government Relations, and Brian Bowles, our Acting CAO. You may have seen some coverage of the conference on TV, radio, or in the paper. All the political leaders were there, and all the cabinet ministers. We had back-to-back appointments with the ministers of health, transportation, energy, economic development, infrastructure, municipal affairs and housing. Councillor Hoyle, this was your second time at Roma, and you can attest to how busy we were and how much ground we did cover. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of being face-to-face with decision makers at Queen's Park. It is essential we meet with cabinet ministers and their teams every chance we get. They hear about our projects and our challenges, and they work with us. They need as much as we need them. It's at events and meetings such as this we can present what we hope to achieve for our city and how the province will move forward by investing in Port Colborne. I thank Gary Long for working weeks before the conference to secure our time with all ministries and senior staff. You got us in to see all the people we needed to see, and this is no small feat. Gary, excellent work. In addition to meetings with ministers, there were speakers and educational sessions where municipalities learned from one another. We will all face similar challenges of aging infrastructure, need for housing, and improved health care. I know our team impressed our provincial counterparts, and I'm confident we'll see action on our files, including the partnerships we've developed with the province and Asahi Kasei and Young Budslauer. We've got a lot of irons in the fire, and good work on all fronts, team. And 2 days before Roma, I attended Marine Week in Toronto, the annual gathering of the marine industry, all the major players in shipping and shipbuilding, cargo, ports, waterways, and canals. Part of the event included the annual general meeting of Highway H2O, where we learned cargo in the Great Lakes was up in 2024 from the year before, and is forecast to be up again in 2025. The focus of Highway H2O and the Ontario Marine Council is environmentally responsible maritime commerce. Being at the table with the top people, the leaders in this industry, is essential for us, just as it is to meet with the leaders of government. And we're a week away from our annual Midwinter Sports Fest. Dozens of businesses and community groups are preparing for 3 days of family fun from Friday, February 7th to Sunday, February 9th. This was first held in 1999. Sports Fest is a February tradition which welcomes people from across Niagara to a citywide celebration of indoor and outdoor events, with proceeds donated to charitable organizations throughout the community. Sports Fest is a fantastic example of the phenomenal community we have right here in Port Colborne. Some of the classic favorites are on again, including the ever-popular Mayor's Cup. We dropped the puck to open the hockey tournament on Friday, February 7th at 6 p.m. We have a cornhole tournament for the first time. The Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee welcomes teams of 4 to the Valet Center on Friday, February 7th. Our MIAC members and friends will help raise money for their student peer, 16-year-old Lily Grabovac, who made Canada's national junior roller derby team, and this team travels to Australia this coming summer, so all proceeds from the MIAC Cornhole Tournament and donations will help cover expenses. Lily works as a lifeguard and swim instructor at our YMCA right here in Port Colborne. MIAC invites teams of all ages and all abilities to come join its first Sports Fest tournament. Register your team this week. There will be 5 inductees to the Sports Wall of Fame on Saturday, February 8th in the Golden Puck Room at the Valet Center. Please come out and celebrate our sports heroes. The induction ceremony will be live streamed on Facebook for those who are unable to attend. Don't forget the Polar Plunge Sunday afternoon down at the Marina, February 9th. Every year we draw bigger and bigger crowds to see the brave polar plungers. You can register and pay a nominal fee or raise $100 for charity and plunge for free. There will be lots of Sports Fest fun for the whole family. Several local businesses are running events, and they are always sold out, so register early. All the events are on our city website, portcolborne.ca. I'm sure everybody will have a great weekend. And the Super Bowl, sans the Bills, unfortunately, will be the ending of Sports Fest for the weekend. Our regional councillor is not here this evening. Councillor Davies is away. Are there any regional questions, council? Yep, Councillor Baggy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, actually to you. I noticed on the local media, CHCH, we talk about the Niagara Regional Police are investigating the possible use of body cameras.
Yep.
And the cost is like $1 million to purchase them, and $2 million a year for the upkeep and storage of the information and that. My question to you is it those funds, it's not approved yet, but are those funds approved for 2025, or they're looking at 2026 maybe?
2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
There's more meetings to go on, and actually public consultation is going to go out across Niagara for that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. On to item 11, our consent. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering for the gallery, that there is going to be an opportunity for us to speak under 12 for the future of healthcare in Port Colborne.
Yeah.
Where we can do that. So can that come before some of these staff reports? Just because rather than have people sit through all that, they may want to get to it.
Yeah, that's how it will.
Okay,
yeah,
it's
basically next.
I just want the public
We have to do our consent agenda first.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. So Councillor Bagu has lifted items 11.3C, the West Street Parkette upgrades, and 11.3D, the NPCA trees for all partnership opportunity. Are there any other items under the consent agenda to be lifted? Okay. If I could have Councilors Danch and Elliott move that council hereby approves the listed consent items on the January 28th, 2025 council agenda, and that the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained. All in favor? That's carried. Councilor, your wish is my command. So item 12. 12.1 is a community engagement on the future of healthcare in the city of Port Colborne. First up, we have report 2025-19. If I could have Councilor Bruno and Councilor Bagu move that the Chief Administrative Office report 2025-19 be received. That council directs staff to implement the proposed comprehensive public engagement plan outlined in this report. Mr. Bowles?
I'll go up.
Yep, go up front. Yeah.
Thank you, Council, and those in the gallery. So our fantastic manager of communications has put together a couple slides because I know there's a lot in the presentation. There's a lot in the presentation, and I want everybody to be able to visualize what's in the presentation because in order to digest it, I think we have to be able to see it with some slides. So if I can go to the next slide. Nope, okay. Okay, so when we tackled this request to do public engagement here, we really looked at it from 5 key areas. 1, to inform the community. Our goal was here to gather feedback, to promote inclusion wherever we can on this. We want to be able to identify the concerns and the opportunities as we go forward and ensure transparency because everything that we gather will make transparent as we go through this whole process. I think it is important as we move forward that as we gather information, that information will become public, and going through a process with respect to this will give us an opportunity, and I just highlight to council and I highlight to the public, there is no expectation that once we get to the end of the public consultation that there is going to be a fed to complete decision. It will be information that council at that point in time will have to use to inform themselves with respect to their next decision or where to go forward. So we have posted the report. We posted it, I think, 2 days early, which was a little bit of a feat for the clerks, and I appreciate the clerks for doing that. That provided some additional time. We did get additional feedback from people in the community, and we do have a couple slides here to talk about some of that feedback and how we'd recommend council actually amend the report that we put in front of you. So if we look at the next slide. On the next slide, you'll see a couple areas where we've identified to add. So in the original proposal, definitely online, paper, and in person with some pop-up engagement opportunities. There is the multiple choice and open-ended questions, and I thank for the question earlier, but maybe just to add to that, in addition to taking the questions, and I think it's important to know, and I really appreciate the comms team for helping put this together, they took all the information that we had available to us, Mayor's Health Working Group, Fort Erie questionnaire. We were able to take the information from the Niagara Health and the report when they asked for the additional funds. We also had a third-party public engagement company look at it to make sure that we're covering off all of the widest breadth that we possibly could. I can tell one of the very first questions for council to know in there is the public, and it will be, I will get the question wrong when I say it to you right now, but it's generally, do you support urgent care or a 24-hour urgent care in Port Colborne? Yes or no? And I think that's one of the most important things that the public and you as council want to know what the public has. So that will be one of the very first questions after we ask, are you from Port Colborne or not? So as we go forward, I just want to acknowledge maybe a couple other comments here. Different people will definitely want maybe some different questions. So we've taken the questions and all the information we have, and we've tried to create a number of open-ended questions and a lot of opportunity for the public to write in and express other concerns and other ideas that they may have going forward. And that was one mechanism that we tried to use to address a mechanism, because full disclosure, like, we use the information that we had, and there may be some individuals that may have a different idea of where to go forward. And we've tried to create lots of opportunity to be able to collect that. And our goal is, and I'm going to thank, for example, Rachel from the library, who was telling me today even, that not only will she have the paper copies there, but she'll make it available so if the community wants to come in and do it online, they'll have a computer ready, people can go to the library and they can even do it online, and they'll help people through that as well. On the stakeholder engagement, we have added, based on some comments, Senior Advisory Committee. We'll go back to the Social Determinants of Health Committee to get some additional information. On the open houses, as noted, the in-person sessions, I think we've heard, we're very supportive of those. And we have added, we're just working out the date right now for an in-person option going forward. So on the next slide, I think on the next slide, I think it's important to kind of identify that the information's not just going to be online. It is going to be at multiple facilities. We are working to get into some of the healthcare facilities, as well as other community groups. There will be the electronic, there will be the social media, but we also are going to be sending out a paper copy so that way people know to go and pick one up going forward. And then on the next slide, I think a couple important things, and these were really highlighting some of the suggestions that we've heard so far, is I'll look at the other notable concerns. So the 3-week timeline was so short, or maybe too short. So the reason why the timeline was put forward, all I can speak to is the genesis to how it was, and then council can direct us further from there. So when we built the timeline, we looked at it from a standpoint of how much can we take for the consultation, the questionnaire, how much time can we take with respect to the information gathering. Then what we need to do is we need to give the comms team an opportunity to digest the information. And we have to be able to write a report. And to do a report, you basically have to have a report done about a week in advance because it has to go through editing. And anybody that's maybe been involved in some of the council committees would have experienced that in the past. So in order to do all of that, we had to pick an end date. And that was the end date. And the reason why that end date happened is to provide that information so we could get a council meeting before the end of March. And the reason why we would put forward that's an important date is because at the end of March, there's this conference called Good Roads. Good Roads might sound like infrastructure for everybody, but anybody that's maybe watched a previous council meeting, you would know that Good Roads is also an opportunity where councillors get to go and talk to ministry officials. And staff was putting forward and puts forward on this that it would be good and it would be beneficial if we could use this as a checkpoint to come back, tell council the information we've received to date, everything we've heard, and that might give council the ability to help direct staff to put together some material to take to Good Roads and talk to ministry officials. So that was the genesis to why the timeline got created. It wasn't necessarily saying we only want to do it in 3 weeks. It was, we were trying to build it back so we could bring commentary back and get council, you, to give us as staff some advice on how to prepare you to go to Good Roads to talk to ministry staff with respect to this topic. The other idea was having experts consulted. I think I kind of addressed that in my previous slide where we received the information. And we have added, and our recommendation is that you would amend the report, and you can amend it any other way that you like, but from a staff perspective, we would definitely recommend that you amend the report to include the in-person town hall and further consultation with both the Senior Advisory Committee and the Social Determinants of Health Committee. And that's a quick synopsis of the report and the genesis to how we got here and some of the decisions that we put forward for council to consider. And I'm happy to take any questions, and I know our manager of communication, we couldn't be doing this communication without her, is here to answer as well.
Councilors, questions? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Brian. So if the timeline was just to get to Good Roads, can we extend the timeline to whatever you would like, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, and take the responses that we get prior to Good Roads, compile them and take that information with us and continue on with the survey?
So to the mayor, or through the mayor to the councillor, I think from staff's perspective, our recommendation would be to go with that timeline, present what we have, and then make an assessment, do we extend and do another round of communication? Because I think what we've heard from the public is potentially this timeframe's not the perfect timeframe. And if that's true, we would do it over so many weeks. We'd have an opportunity to assess what we've collected, and we can go back out if need be, and council at that point in time can direct us to go back out and continue on with the same process.
Counselor?
Don't we get to the same point if we just cut off like a week before good roads and just let the survey continue without waiting to see what information we get, what feedback we get, and then decide whether we want to go longer? We can go as long as we want. But if the intent is just to compile the information we get prior to good roads, take what you have, compile that, use that, let the survey continue for 2 months, 3 months, and then compile everything that we've got and come back to council.
Okay, do that. Further questions?
Yes. Just ask why we can't do that.
Certainly can.
Okay, so I'll put that forward.
Well, why don't you hold on to that until we'll gather them all up? Because there's a number of other recommendations. Yeah. So hear from council, then we can gather those up. Councilor Hoyle.
I agree with Councilor here. Halfway, we could get enough points to go in there, just like we went with no points just recently doing the same thing. So if we'll have a benefit greater in the long run, but if we get what the public temperature is now, or by then, I should be able, oh, sorry, not me, but whoever's going to good roads to be able to sell it to the ministers.
Councilor Bodnar? Well, I was just going this side, then I'll go over there. That's
okay. So that's not a bad plan, but I think we should encourage the people that are here tonight, if you want to get your thoughts or whatever in front of the ministers that we're going to be talking to, don't wait. You need to do it now. Don't think you got 3 months and you come in right at the end, and we've already talked to all the important ministers. If you want to get your voice out there, when you see that out tomorrow, start working on it, okay? And encourage your friends and neighbors to do the same thing, okay?
Councilor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to agree with both councilors there. But in talking with Brian earlier, like the intent is this 3-week period is to gather enough information to go to good roads, and I understand that. But can we, in the amendment that we're doing, say that this will be like a 3 or 4 phase approach? Like the urgent care isn't leaving until 2028, so we do have time. I understand we need information to go and speak to ministers about, but like we could take this as the first phase, regroup, and then set the stage for a second phase and so on going forward.
Through the mayor to the council and council, I do really want to stress, and I think it's staff's perspective, that this communication engagement process right now, I think it's really phased into the fact that there was a report in December. But I think the reality is when I talk to all of you, you're interested in what the future of public health is going to look like on a grander scale in Port Colborne. And that means that this engagement process is not going to be the last part, I think, of community engagement to where you're going. And so I would just take the opportunity, since you gave me the mic back, just to ask, under the comments that are being received, to extend it. Would your comments direct staff to come back still at the end of March and publicly say where we are with the questionnaire? Or would we hold that for until the end, till when the questionnaire stops?
Councilor?
I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would say yes, because of transparency. We want the public to hear what is happening, but I'm happy to hear anybody else's.
Yeah, Counselor, I wouldn't tie yourself to any phases. Let staff take this and, you know, whatever extensions you put on this evening and the other things that staff have asked us to amend on this. But as this moves through, things can change and you may say, yeah, let's do this, and it goes out a point, and then that information comes back. And you may go out again for something, or you may be able to make your decision at that time. I wouldn't tie yourself to whether it's a 3-phase, 4-phase. Yeah, as they bring it back, it'll be up to this horseshoe with regards to what the next steps are from what that report brings.
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
agree. I just want to make sure that everybody's understanding that this 3-week period with the report coming back in March is not the end result.
No, and I think some councils have already stated that,
Yes,
so, yeah.
yes.
I have Councillor Baggett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you, I don't know what to call you now.
Acting CAO.
Acting CAO, Director of Finance, and up on the cross up there. Thank you very much for that urgent care question being in the questionnaire. But I think another question should be, because I don't see the ministry, the regional ministry putting money towards it because they're $20 million in the hole. The financing is going to have to come from somewhere else. It's probably going to be the city of Port Colborne. So probably another good question to add is whether the taxpayers are willing to put a small increase in their tax, the levy, to finance an urgent care if Niagara Health, which I know they're not going to fund us anyways, because they already said they're going to close it. So that would be a good question to add in there. My other one, I guess, is for the mayor. The Health Sciences Working Group, on page 6, the report, that's the local doctors, Mr. Mayor?
There are doctors included in our group, yes.
Okay.
Different,
Apologize.
that's okay. You have to go answer a call? Okay, thanks. You're important here. When that goes off, we may have to worry here. So, Counselor, that's our working group. So there's like a retired nurse, there's seniors healthcare, labor, business owners. So that's come together. So that's really where Dr. Vandenberg came in with his plan, and then we discussed that. We had several education seminars at our meetings with regards to like pharmacy, and different doctors came in and different medical professions. Nurse practitioner came in and spoke to us. So that's where it's culminated out of. They put a survey together, which went to staff. So staff actually helped the committee chair put that together. It came back to us. It went around to everybody. They put their 2 cents worth in, and then that came back to the committee, and then staff has taken a majority of those questions that are out of it. We actually looked at the 40 survey too, that was brought to us by one of our members. So that's where that came through with that committee. So this is really a culmination of all that where we are today.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ed. I've heard through the grapevine that there's been a couple of resignations on that committee recently. So hopefully we can take care. I don't know what the reasons are. I don't want to know what the reasons are. I'm not on the committee. But I hope we can replace those people or get them to come back or something. The last point, Mr. Mayor, is the urgent care again. The city or town of Aurelia has a municipally run urgent care. And I don't want to wait till all this consultation's over before staff says, well, we should look at maybe our city of Aurelia, how they run their urgent care. So what I'm suggesting is, in all this, I don't know if we have enough staff around here, but in all this information gathering, we also gather information on other municipalities that run their own urgent cares. This could be an option later on, but we have to leave it open. I don't want to wait till August. Say, oh, Everything's gone, we gotta look into that now. So I really appreciate whether it's an overnight trip, I don't care. Get some people from the public also, I think would be really important, and staff, and maybe one counselor or something. And do a day trip, learn all about it, get the staff, get one of our professional nurses and doctors up there, check it out, and it's just information we could have when we may need it. And I really appreciate just looking into that, Mr. Bowles.
Bowles?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything to add?
Just through yourself and to the counselor, staff are happy to take that as direction to research that. Gary Long, our director of planning and government relations, can help us find some connections up in Aurelia for sure.
Councilor Bruno.
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said up to now about timing and not to put a hard end to the timing. One of the things when I got a concern to myself is I think this deadline, I didn't know that's why it was created, but is creating, to Councillor Bodner's point of view, some energy around getting some answers in, and the sooner the better. But what I do think is that those answers are going to beget more questions. And this is going to be like a funnel report. So, for example, do you want an urgent care center? Yes, 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 all of us. So then the question is a new question, right? So there's, we're going to lobby the provincial government. We're going to say, what's it cost to run one? We're going to say, do you want some taxpayer dollars to go through that? Obviously, we don't want to do that. We want to get the ministry to pay for it. Then it might be the numbers here, and then it might have to be, well, the clinic that might happen could go till 8 o'clock, and so maybe we do some of the rest, maybe we do Saturday and Sunday, we fill the gap. So I think by having these milestones and getting through them, we get on to the next step of our own internal process, and we become the decision makers with the people. And I think they, along the way, get the chance to review what's there. I was struck by Mr. Rosnick's question about there are going to be questions in that survey that some of us are going to say, I wish they would have went to the next step. But there might be 10 of those, and we can't wait to get those 10. So out of that first, for me, that's a key thing. Like, how do we keep urgent care, and what do the people want in terms of their contribution? Like, to me, that's vital. And then we find out how we can find the money. But it's a process. And I'm glad there's not an end date, but I'm glad there's milestones to keep this moving with some energy.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, we got to get through a long meeting tonight, folks. Anything to add, Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that is where this is a road to learning and to a step. And I think it's very important for everybody to realize there is no questionnaire on day one. There is no public consultation on day one that will have all the answers. And people will say, I suspect a lot of people are going to say they would prefer to have, maybe 100% will prefer to have an urgent care in Port Colborne. There is probably no mechanism to write in a questionnaire today every iteration. So once that's voted on through a engagement process, council will then have to entertain what the next round is. And that most likely will lead to a process to developing a second questionnaire that will lead to new questions of how we do it. So I really just want to stress that there is no first round of public consultation that will have a definitive answer, I think, for anybody. It will lead us up for a process to get to an answer.
Okay. Councillor Bodner.
I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Bowles, I guess. So, tell me how this will or will not affect the Lockview Medical Group and Dr. Vandenberg that was, you know, is this putting him off? You know, he had said he had a couple of doctors that were interested in coming if we could get this up and running. I certainly wouldn't want to see us stumble on that thing and, you know, and lose the chance. But where does that fit in? Does it even affect this, or?
Mr. Bowles.
So through the mayor to council, it's a difficult question to answer because there is one fundamental question. I think everybody can attest to this and can rationalize with this. If you're a medical group, primary care, and you go and say, okay, I'm willing to go into this and grow this, but you don't know if where you're going is still going to be there in 4 years or 3 years, it makes it hard to invest all your time and energy and to build that practice in a location that you don't know what the future of that location is. And that is where we are on this program, a little bit tripping over ourselves, because we know what we want to do. We want to have a conversation about public health, and at the same time we have this great idea to grow primary care in the city. But the location we want to do it is at the forefront of that whole conversation. And that's, unfortunately, we do need to have some clarity with respect to that space, because ultimately that doctor and that primary care group needs some clarity of what happens to them if they sign a lease for a couple years and then Niagara Health does leave, and where does that leave them?
Counselor?
So I just don't want to see that get lost in everything else we're trying to do, because that's going to be a really valuable piece of the puzzle if we can get that up and running to everybody's satisfaction. So I'd just like to see staff or somebody on this so we don't just keep pushing that off and we find out that the docs went someplace else and maybe there's another opportunity for the medical group in another municipality, you know. I mean, this is important stuff along with everything else. So I'll leave it like that, but I don't want to see that get lost.
Yeah. I know Mr. Long's working on that, so we'll make sure that he continues to do that. Counselor? Okay. Further questions? Counselor Hoyle?
Just to err on that, I'm just worried about that there could be an opportunity, well, a disadvantage here that these doctors could leave and add to our shortness that we have now. That could be even more of a problem. Just a thought.
Okay, so Councillor Elliott, with regards to the timeline of, because we know we can go further, but in dealing with the clerk and our deputy clerk, but our clerk is watching. She's ill at home tonight, but she has been sending a message to our acting clerk tonight, who's our deputy clerk, with regards to how we put this forward. But we should probably put a date, so we know we want to collect up till the week or so, or well, there's a date you can take all that information beforehand. That's a date you guys can pick on your own, because you know when you need the information by before Good Roads comes up, so you can actually do that on your own. I mean, I don't think they need direction from us. They know exactly what we want. So you can grab a date so that you can compile all that information and put a report together. So when counselors go to that conference with staff, then they know how the information that's going forward. But as far as kind of that first end date for the total survey, do you want to give staff a date for that? Because then that'll generate, once they get all that information and it comes back, it'll generate the next steps, as Councillor Aquilina talked about, where you want to take it from there.
Through you, Mayor, I was kind of thinking the end of April. So go February, March, April. Some people that are away down south, make them back the 1st of April. Gives them an opportunity. So you've got 90 plus days if that works. See some heads shake. Yes, no?
Yeah, you've got, so April 30th is a Wednesday, Mr. Bowles. That gives you until the 13th of May meeting to bring those back. So that gives you, well, no, because it doesn't, it'll have to come back the 27th of May. By the time you compile it, get it in as a report, you won't have enough time. So is that just consensus, guys? Is that a date that everybody can live with? That's consensus, okay?
Just quickly, I don't want you to rush to compile all the answers. So there's no rush once the survey's done.
Yeah.
We don't
That gives
have
them-
to get
that
it
gives them
back.
4 weeks to get
Yeah,
that
then you can take your time and bring it back when it's, when you're good and ready to bring it back,
Yes.
right? So, because it was going to lead into, we'll say, part 2. So,
Exactly.
I'm, through the mayor and council, I might even suggest that you could set your goal for April 30th, but you would look to revisit it even if you needed more time, because you can do that at the March meeting too.
Sure.
Give that direction.
Okay, so we'll use the April 30th date for the amendment. Okay, is that consensus is fine with that, guys? Okay. And then the other issues that staff brought up to add on as part of that amendment, the 2 movers, are you fine with those?
New questions that will come out of this.
No, right there. Suggested changes to the,
Yes.
yeah, that was what, and I'm gonna call you Counselor Demery. Angie Demery brought forward with regards to, well, she sat by me for so many years on a council. But to add those in as well, okay, as part of that whole amendment? Okay, the 2 movers are fine with that? Okay, Bagu and Bruno? Okay. Any further changes? Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to Councillor Bodner's question, and I'm just wondering, we've all heard of the word modeling, and if Mr. Long is doing that with the doctor, I'm wondering if you do a modeling where we have the building and it continues, and a modeling where it drops off at 4 years, because I think what then will happen is in your conversations with the group, they'll probably all want the extension, but, there has to be conversations about, and it was brought up here by somebody, so what's the rent, so it's no surprise? Is there a market rent now that goes with, as somebody asked a question about the Bogio rent as an example. I don't want to get into the details, I'll leave that to you. But I think that you can bring back 2 versions of that, and at least it gets us closer to a finish line.
No, you can take that. Yeah, because that could be depending on the staff.
Sorry.
Okay. Mr. Bowles?
If I could just, through the mayor to the councillor and council, I think just to set expectations for Mr. Long on that negotiation, there is another side to it. So he'll bring back both options if the other side is willing to discuss both options. Otherwise, it's kind of a futile exercise. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to put an end date, council, for when it has to come back to us. So because we'll leave that to the staff depending on when they get done. So, I think by May 30th, they should be able to have that May date to come back to council. But just in case, let's not tie their hands on that. Is that fine? So if they kind of aim for that, but if it's a June meeting, it's a June meeting. All right? Further questions?
I'm just gonna say, I'm assuming the thing's like it got a calculator on it, right? When you cut it off at this date, right, the yeses and nos can still keep adding up, right? So it's not like, once you reach April 30th, you need to wait a month to compile the results.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So everybody understands the amendments that are coming forward, and then the part of that amendment that Councillor Elliott brought forward? I'll let the original guys move it, is that fine? You're fine with that? Okay, so on the amendments first, and then we'll do the motion as amended. So further questions? So on the motion as amended, on the amendments, all in favor? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Now, to the main motion as amended, any further questions?
Through you to Brian. When is the cutoff date so that you can compile the replies or comments to go to Good Roads? What date?
Through the mayor to council, I think it's February 21st, getting the head shakes, yes. February 21st is the cutoff
Is
for
the cutoff date?
Because that gives us 2 weeks, and then we start to put the report together, yes.
So just for the folks in the audience, February 21st. If you want your comments to make it to Good Roads in front of the ministers of the government, get your comments in quick. Talk early so that your voice can be heard by them. Just want to let them know.
Okay, Counselor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is just a question I don't know the answer to. With the anticipation of the election, like how does that work with the ministers for Good Roads?
Good Roads is being March. I'm not sure how they'll work that, but what's the date, Gary, for Good Roads?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's March 31st to April 2nd.
So if the new government that comes in, ministers are picked, then they'll be setting all that up. And then they'll plug in their parliamentary assistants, their deputy ministers, and their ministers at that time.
And okay.
So yeah, that'll all fall into place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further questions? So this is on the motion, the original motion as amended. All in favor? And that's carried. Perfect. That's unanimous. Okay. On to item 12.2 is community engagement regards to licensed childcare in Port Colborne. Mr. Bowles.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to council. So,
Mr. Mayor, can we take a quick break while everybody?
Certainly.
I'm surprised they don't want to sit through the whole council meeting. I'm a little disappointed, but
Okay, item 12.2, community engagement on licensed childcare in Port Colborne. If I could have Councillor Beauregard and Aquilina. Move that Chief Administrative Officer Report 2025-20 be received. The council directs staff to implement the public engagement plan regarding expanding licensed childcare spaces in Port Colborne and the proposed location of the former visitor center is outlined in this report. Mr. Bowles.
Thank you, Mayor. To yourself and council, I think it was September, it might have been August, that council endorsed a report that would move forward to talk about additional childcare locations at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. And as we've identified in this report, the YMCA and the Niagara region are very interested in moving forward with that, but we have found some cost complexities with going to that location right now. We do have what we believe to be a more financially viable location with respect to the current visitor center. We have had an opportunity to go and talk to the Heritage Committee, and they are supportive of us going forward and getting some public consultations, some community input, if that would be an appropriate location for a child care center going forward. Just to remind everybody, and anybody might be watching at home, right now we have over 300 spots we're short within the city, and with the city continuing to grow going forward, childcare is desperately needed in this city. So this is a mechanism that we can move forward to do it. We have been working with the Y and the region on this. The goal is that the financial model would have the YMCA paying for all the operating costs. We would then move forward with a lease payment that would pay for some of the capital. We could look at development charges to pay for some of the capital. And just as a reminder, a development charge is only paid by a new developer, or somebody generally moving in. Growth pays for growth with respect to that. And we are also looking at grant opportunities. We'll bring back the full financial model as it gets built out, but before we go out and do an RFP and before we see what the final cost would be on this, we would like council support to go out and get some public consultation to find out if the community is supportive of that specific location. But happy to take any questions on this report.
Councillor Aquilina.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO. Do we know approximately how many child care spots there would be at the visitor center?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, we'd be looking at 49 spots in total. It would have a significant dent in the total allocation of it, the shortfall that we have today.
Thank you. And then do we know if schools have the before and after care that they always have?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, yes, we do. I don't have the specific names of what programs. I should have had the other report in my hand, but we have made that public too, and I can get that to you.
Councillor Baggett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Is the Vale Center location, I've heard through the grapevine that it might not be dead to the ministry 100%.
Yeah, so through the mayor to the councillor, the Health and Wellness Center 100% is still an option down the road. We will need more childcare within the city of Port Colborne than this one location. It's just with the financial modeling that exists today, this location is more viable financially in the short term. The Health and Wellness Center would definitely be an opportunity as we go forward and as different grant programs open up. Staff would be bringing that forward to council to consider it as a location. It was brought up, I think, at Roma. I think Councillor Hoyle brought that up specifically to ministers as we were talking about it too, that location.
Yeah, that was in our ask to Minister Lumsden, who we talked about it, and a number of questions he had. It was part of our package that went to him, but a number of questions he had, actually, Councillor Hoyle brought some really good information back with what's happening at Valet, specifically with our women's hockey, and the number of women that are there that are playing that need childcare. I mean, the whole thing tied together so well, and Tim was quick with the answer on that one, so, but our presentation to him, he was very intrigued by this on all the aspects that we're looking at for that add-on to that facility. Because in his bailiwick, it's sport and tourism, but helping to support this through other ministries and what else can happen through sport and tourism within that new build. I mean, we've talked about the Y in there, we talked about our current users using space in there, we talked about physiotherapy can go on in there, all kinds of things, which was part of our presentation that Gary put together. So, yeah, it was good. Anything to add? No.
Great job, Councilor Hoyle. My other question is this in plan with the federal government's or $10 a day daycare also?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councilor and council, it is, but just as a reminder that the whole program is not necessarily at $10. It's a transition to $10, and how they get there, that I'm not going to say I'm the expert on it, but it is in that program, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Bruno?
Thanks, very supportive of this program. I too was hoping it would be at Vail Center for all the obvious reasons, and hockey just adds a cherry on top of that, women's hockey. My concern at the interim choice location is, are there grants or are we paying for, I guess, what might amount to the renovation study? Because where I'm going with this is, if that becomes too high, have we wasted money we could have put for an addition or design at Vail and other things, meeting space, all that stuff? And secondly, would the outcome of the renovations, I wouldn't think it would, but I wouldn't want it to box the building in for resale someday if we moved all of it to Vail. So are we putting ourselves in a box that that makes the use only for this? I wouldn't think so. And how do we fund the costs to see if it fits our budget, like the design costs?
But on that, Brian, this isn't interim, this is to keep this there.
Keep it and do Vail.
And do Vail, when we can afford Vail.
Okay, do we know the cost of the potential design costs for Humberston Hall? Yet?
Through the mayor to the councilor, I don't have it in total with me right here, right now. I can get it for you as we complete the consultation process. I can, over that period of time, I can provide it to you.
I guess because you want the consultation, but you also want to know if it's, I don't know, dead in the water, right? Because it's too much, and the heritage aspects and the roof pitch and washrooms that it needs, all that stuff. So I think it's pretty vital. I mean, I can't think of another city-owned building that we could use. I'd rather do that in the interim, but I'm just a little bit worried that if we don't know the cost, we're just walking into a trouble spot.
Through the mayor to the councilor and council, in case I've caused some confusion, we do have a cost model, like for the whole building. We've gone out for budgetary pricing, just like we do with any other type of project that we have. With your comment, I might have gotten confused because the comment, I thought you were looking for more of an architectural design and all of that. But we do have a general cost. The general cost of a project like this is going to be in the $2.5 million range to build this. And again, it would be funded with respect to development charges. It'd be funded on the lease payments from the YMCA and the through the provincial government, through the region, as the two primary funding sources.
So just one last question then. With this coming in and the granting of the space, when does that have to be done by?
Through the mayor to the councilor. So as we noted in the earlier report that came last year, the application process is open now for future years. Our goal would be that if the community was on board with that location, we'd come back with a further report with the full costing and the projected budgetary financing components at the meeting according to the schedule that we've lined out. And we would go to RFP immediately with the hope to have students at the Child Care Center open by the fall of 2026.
And so does that fit with the grant application? In other words, they're granting these spaces all over the place. They either want to cut a ribbon or have somebody in, and is it sort of like who's ready now gets the space? So that's what I'm concerned about. Like, do you get accepted and then you tell them, but we won't be ready for till 2026, and they say that's okay, yes? Or does the application say you got to be ready by to get the money?
Through the mayor to the councilor, I think it's a great question. Our ongoing dialogue with the region and with the YMCA puts us in a position that we will have the spaces for this location. But we will do a formal application once council gives us the go-ahead to RFP, which would be in a couple months from now. But on a verbal basis, everybody is very supportive at both of those organizations for this application to be received successfully.
Thank you.
Nope, you answered it.
You answered? Councilor Bonner? All answered? Okay. Good. And the more collaborations, Councilor, that go into these, I was at an announcement yesterday with regards to gateway housing and the number of groups, Canadian Mental Health, the region, into the new program the province is putting out for homelessness, drug addiction, and mental illness that Gateway will operate across Niagara. The great thing about that application, and Gateway took the lead, is how many people they have involved in that, and it worked very well for the 18 million they're going to get to operate that program. So that's what they look for, in whether it's a federal or provincial grants. The more partnerships you have that are involved, the greater chance you do have of getting these things. And having those two organizations, so specifically the region because they operate them now, but the YMCA, who also operates, is at the table with us. The points that you get for that stuff helps you boost us for those applications. So that's a good thing. Okay, any further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Item 12.3, West Street Parkette upgrades, moved by Councillor Bagu, second by Councillor Danch. That Public Works Department report 2025-11 be received for information. I know Councillor Bagu is the only one that brought this up. Questions to staff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, it's a great job, Public Works and our contractor. I don't know how many trees we lost, but I did notice a lot of them were transplanted to Lockview Park, the new park, and it's going to provide instant shade next summer when it's nice and hot. So kudos to staff in doing this. Some people thought we were just cutting down all the trees and put them to a chipper, but no, we save as many as we can. And so I don't know how many we had to cut down, but you guys did a great job anyways. My question, Mr. Mayor, to staff is on page 2, the pergola structure will have a power source and be available for public use and lease. I did receive correspondence from the public questioning the lease word in this, whether all the pergolas are going to be just rented out to somebody and nobody else gets to use them, or they had questions on what's happening. I know a local restaurant did have access to part of the berm, and this person's asking whether automatically they get it again or what's going on. So just a little bit questions for Steve.
Mr. Shapowski.
Through your worship. So we are planning, the initial discussions were to lease one of the pergolas to a spot, but that would be done through a competitive bidding process. So we would put it out there through public bid, and people would be able to bid on that location for the season. Similar to our other process where we have vendors in parking spots or different areas similar to H.H. Knoll Park. So it'd be a similar circumstance to that. And then at the same time, we were going to keep one of the pergolas more for a public space. But that's always up to council's decision whether they want to rent or lease both spaces, keep them both open to the public, or one being leased and one open to the public. So that's always available to as council's options.
Yeah, make council the fall guy, no problem. That's why we get paid the big bucks here. Okay, thank you, Steve. That's great for clarification, and I'll wait till it comes back to council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Elliott.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Through you to Steve. You're in conversation with downtown BIA, correct? To find out.
Yes, through your worship, our operations staff have been in contact with the BIA.
Just for use, right? For use of the pergolas, what they want and what they don't want to see. If you're gonna tenant it out for the season, there has been some conversation that like a competitive business against a brick and mortar business on the street may have an advantage because they're over there as opposed to here. So something that's unique to the street instead of competing with. I heard that in conversation, so just might want to check in and get their opinion on that.
Yeah. Through your worship, staff can definitely take that back, and as we're going through that procurement process, we can actually put some stipulations in there as needed.
Councillor Natch.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Steve, you think he's gonna keep that little bump out there? Is that hydro on that one spot? Like, does that have to stay there, or can it be gotten rid of?
Through your worship. So we do have to keep that one bump out that's in the middle of the parking lot. Although the hydro pole will be going, there's also a transformer that's needed in that direct area. So unfortunately, we do have to keep that bump out just to house that infrastructure.
Darn, I agree with you. Councillor Bodnar.
So I would imagine this isn't gonna happen, but I gotta ask. So if you're gonna lease out one of those pergolas, we're not gonna see a food truck there or something like that,
Steve?
are we?
Through your worship, I guess that would be up to council's decision whether we want to. I think as we go through a procurement process, there will be multiple options, hopefully, where we'll be able to choose the correct vendor for the location.
So when you ask for interest, are you gonna put some no-go on it? Like you're gonna say it can be this, this, or this? And will council have a look at that before you put it out? Or I would like council to have a look at that before you put it out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we'd run a food truck there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would just think, you know, it looks like such a nice space. The other thing is, and I know this is just a proposed mock-up of it, but what's gonna be there to guard the cars from jumping that curb and going into the pergola without, you know, it looks nice there because people with accessibility issues can, you know, get to that whole area. But are you gonna put like guardrails there or something, or what's gonna, just looks a little dangerous just having cars bumping up against there.
Through you, your worship. So we do have a full curb and gutter there along the curb line as well, but we've also discussed having concrete planters that would be along that area too. Currently, there's a walkway along there, but how with us opening that whole area up, you don't really require that walkway anymore directly along. There would still be access paths between the planters themselves, but that would be the gist of trying to get that separation between people dining and the cars, just in case something should happen.
Okay, further questions? This is just to receive, all in favor? That's carried. 12.4, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, Trees for All Partnership Opportunity 2025-14, moved by Councillor Bagu, second by Councillor Bodnar. The council approved the Director of Public Works to authorize an agreement with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority for tree planting services on private lands in the amount of $55,000, funded from the 2025 tree planting operating budget, provided private landowners sign up for the program. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you.
Just a sec, I apologize. They changed this, they added one on the second page. The council authorized, further to that, the council authorized the Director of Public Works to approve future Trees for All program expenses up to a maximum of $35,000 a year until 2031, funded from the annual operating budget, provided private landowners sign up for the program. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great idea. I guess it's part of the federal government's 2 million trees or whatever, I think.
2 billion.
2 billion over, and it's a great idea. I knew there was some talk among staff regarding the planting of saplings rather than bigger trees, and like for the success rate on the smaller seedlings. But and for that reason, and this agreement's for the next 5 years, and that goes to the next council. And I don't want to strap the next council into being obligated if this doesn't seem to be going right. So I would like to see council get an update, say in June of 2026, this council, before budget, whether it just an evaluation, is it working, evaluation of the project. I know the MPCA said they're going to evaluate it, so I would appreciate the evaluation, if it is working, is it not, and because I don't want to strap future councils into the monies. We can plant bigger trees, on city property or people's other yards. So if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so there are two safety gaps within here. Under the 55,000 portion and the 35,000 portion, staff have put in provided private landowners sign up for the program. So if nobody's signing up for the program, we're not spending a dime.
Yeah, okay.
So that's our safety gap there. So, or safeguard. So yeah, so if NPCA doesn't get anybody to sign up in year 4, we're not just gonna give them the money and then they go spend it. No, they have to have people sign up and then they'll have that. So that is good for us.
Yes, through your worship, that's absolutely correct. We also have the ability to opt out at any time, or we're not actually signing into a 5-year agreement with them. Basically what we're doing is asking for council support for the Director of Public Works to be able to spend that amount of money on an annual basis for this program in particular. So there's no obligation to do year by year, but our plan right now is to actually report back to council on a year-by-year basis, as you requested, to make sure that the program is going well, that council wants to continue opting into it.
It's great, Mr. Mayor. I have a lot of confidence in the MPCA. Used to be a board member many years ago, for a while, for the good time and bad time. So, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Steve, with this, it works out to be like $1 a tree, doesn't it? Something to. It's cheap.
Yeah,
per tree.
Through your worship, it was at about $1 per tree to the property owner themselves. So it's a good low cost to them, and that's to encourage them to get the tree canopy out there. That's one of the best ways that we as a community, as a city of Port Colborne, are going to be able to grow that tree canopy for the city of Port Colborne. So it'll be a good benefit.
We'll be promoting that program, I assume, along with MPCA? 100%. Great, thank you. Further questions? Councillor Aquilina.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to whoever, the trees, are they little saplings or okay, so. No, I'm just, it's, when they're little saplings, it's, you have to give instructions to people how to care for it and everything to grow it into the canopy we're looking for.
No, you're correct. Further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Staff remarks. Start with our deputy clerk who's filling in for the clerk this evening. Anything to add tonight? Do you have any reports or anything? Nothing for us? Okay. This is the first report from our fire chief, Chief Double. So Chief Double, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Mayor and Council, on behalf of the Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services, we ask Council's support of the recommendations that were presented to you as a dedicated composite fire department committed to providing a superior response to our community. These recommendations will play a crucial role in ensuring an effective and professional service. A full-time training officer will be responsible for developing, delivering, and monitoring training priorities for both full-time and volunteer firefighters. All training and initiatives will be developed and aligned with legislative provincial requirements, the National Fire Protection Act, and the Occupational Health and Safety Act, as well as best practices of the Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services. An increase to the full-time suppression division staff will ensure a more effective response model. With the first out apparatus, Engine 1, staffed consistently with 3 firefighters, we will be more effective.
Well, Stan,
Sorry.
just a sec.
Apologize?
No, yeah, just a sec.
Just to council and Chief Double, I love the enthusiasm, but I do think that you're speaking to a report that we're going to talk about in camera.
I apologize.
Yes, and I apologize to council because Chief Double and I talked about what we were going to do in camera, and I think we might have crossed a little bit. So to the public that saw that, we're going to have a conversation
Aside
later.
from that report, what updates do you have?
Well, I apologize,
That's okay.
Mr. Mayor and council, and obviously apologize to Mr. Bowles. What updates do I have? What a pleasure. What a pleasure it's been to be here since early December. We've made some tremendous strides in a lot of areas, most effectively in morale in both the full-time and the volunteer divisions in our fire department. Been a tremendous opportunity for the great men and women over there as well, and we look forward to a bright future. So thank you, and I apologize again, Mr. Bowles,
okay.
if we, yeah.
We will persevere.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Shapowski.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, all. Usually in January with our negative temperatures and snow.
No, not, keep going, Steve.
And snow happening that's on the ground, usually most municipalities are actually designing infrastructure or getting ready for the construction season. But here in Port Colborne, we're well underway. There's a lot of construction projects that are very significant ongoing right now. And they're basically all to try to fix the infrastructure issues that we do have underground. So we did want to start off the new year with just giving council and the public a brief update on some of the projects that are currently on the go and a couple that are also coming up over the next week. So we currently have a water main replacement on Homewood Avenue where the underground work has just been completed. The Davis Street water main is currently underway right now with an estimated completion date of April. And the water main replacement on West Street, south of Sugarloaf Street, has just started this week and is planned to be completed in March. The Berkeley Street water main replacement project is gearing up to start later this week, and it's being completed by Peters Excavating as well. In all of these cases, the main goal at this time is to get the infrastructure in the ground, get it active, and then when spring comes and we're able to do restorations, we'll do it at that point too. So there will be a bit of time lapse in between where there is some damage to the road or damage to boulevards, but that will be repaired in the spring as soon as we can put hard surfaces back on the ground. The Clarence Street storm sewer replacement project between King Street and West Street has now begun. The road is currently closed for a period of 4 weeks. At that point, the construction will shut down, but then similar to the others, we'll be coming back in the spring to do full restorations in the area. While we did have the contractor out there, we've had them doing test pits on some of the water services that are actually located there to determine their condition, and we have found galvanized and lead services. So in those cases, we are going to be replacing those under this contract at the same time. The Olga Drive storm sewer replacement project is also beginning with the contractor mobilizing to site later this week, and that will go on for a period of about 1 month. The city's wastewater programs are also in full swing with the 2025 mainline program underway. The contractor is currently completing pre-inspection videos of all the priority pipes with the lateral lining to follow. So similarly, the separate contract is doing the inspections for the laterals to determine the condition of the property laterals within priority areas. This information will then be relayed to the lateral lining program, which is set to take place this summer. On another note, you might have noticed West Street has already been dug up, as mentioned through the report that we presented tonight. And I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware that there are some renderings within that report so that they can see what is actually going to occur on West Street in the spring when we remobilized, again, to do restorations when the weather permits. And lastly, I wanted to let the public know that we will be hosting a water, wastewater, and stormwater open house on March 18th and 20th at the Valley Health and Wellness Center Golden Puck Room from 2 to 4 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. This is an opportunity to learn more about the cost behind water and wastewater rates, the actions we're taking to address these challenges, and how your input plays a crucial role in shaping our future. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Librarian. Anything to report, Rachel?
Sure, yeah.
Come on up to the microphone.
Good evening. Sorry, I wasn't planning on reporting anything tonight, but I will share that the Ontario Library Association Super Conference is this week, and I will be attending and I will be presenting on an initiative that we ran at our library starting in April of 2023 called the Community Connect Program. This project was launched to connect our library with local community support agencies to integrate their programs and services with our library services. So far, we've ran 130 additional programs as a result of this partnership program. And so I'll be presenting on that on Thursday. And that will also be when the gala presentation for the Touch a Truck book will be held for the Minister's Award. And so we've been nominated for the award for the Touch a Truck book. I brought that forward to the December meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the library as well.
Those will come after, so you can stay right there.
Okay.
Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mayor Steele. Good evening, Council. Just two things. First off, just wanted to say that it was a pleasure being part of the city's delegation to the Roma conference last week. I thought our meetings were a great success, and looking forward to putting together some ministerial delegations for the Good Roads Conference in early April. And just a quick note that I did speak with Dr. Vandenberg prior to tonight's council meeting. He's well. He was not able to attend the meeting tonight, but was aware of the delegations. I sent him a copy of the staff report regarding the public engagement strategy. And so timelines are important. Timelines for decision making are important for him as well. But anyway, just wanted to let council know that I did speak with him.
Great. Good job, Gary. Thanks. Ms. Murray, anything to report?
Just one quick update. We have begun our summer student recruitment. It's posted for a couple of more days. The posting will be up till 4:30 on the 31st. We're going to be hiring about 50 students. So if you know anyone that's looking, have them apply in the next couple of days.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Bowles.
Sure, thank you. So to council, just a couple things. And first of all, maybe thank you so much for Jessica for stepping in as our clerk tonight, or deputy clerk on any other day, but fantastic job keeping us on track. To Chief Double, thank you so much for joining this city. Your enthusiasm and drive, it's just game changer. It's fantastic, and thank you for being so positive when you came to our first meeting today with respect to planning for Canal Days. And anybody that's been on the planning committees from council on Canal Days, they're extensive with the number of people that come to the city, and thanks for being so positive about receiving for that. A couple of things that Councillor Hoyle made mention, I think at the last council meeting, he gave me a Christmas present with respect to the surveillance cameras. So we are just on the doorstep of releasing our RFP. And I just want to thank, we had a great conversation with the Niagara Regional Police, and they were giving us some ideas about how we can actually reduce our bandwidth costs to be able to run some of the cameras off, like when they're not on a direct facility in the park. So thank you to the Niagara Regional Police tech team. A couple other things just for council. Lodging house licensing bylaw will go to the Social Determinants of Health Committee on February 6th, and following that final sign-off, will come to council for the last meeting in February for council to review and hopefully approve. And last thing, just a big thank you, I think kind of in the spirit, 100% in the spirit of what Councillor Beggu was saying. We always have water and wastewater projects. I think you said that earlier tonight on a different project, but just to the Public Works team for everything they've been doing. We've had a number of breaks in the city and they're on it 24/7 to be able to get out. Our Director of Public Works, the images that he sends throughout those events, I can share them with some council afterwards. They're quite extensive, but just huge thank you to your team for getting out there at all hours and the negative temperatures. It was cold when the last round of breaks went out. So thank you to them all.
Okay, perfect. Okay, on to motions. No, sorry, council remarks. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Steve, I guess. I noticed last Thursday night going to the airport commission meeting, I took Miller Road. Wish I hadn't. And I know that isn't our gig, that's the region's, but there's no snow fencing from third concession going north to the end, basically, to the railroad tracks for sure. And that particular night, it was not very nice. A truck had gone in the ditch before me. It was extremely bad to drive. Can you check if there had been snow fences there? I can't remember in the past, sorry. But, and also have the region look at that because that area was very bad. The road was covered. And I noticed, I actually went there tonight just, so I didn't think I missed the snow fence, but there isn't any there. So, but you'll see the snow on the side of the road, at least in front of one of the gentleman's house is over top the mailboxes now, that side, and that's acting as a snow fence right beside the road. So anyways, can you check that out and just see what's going on and what their explanation for that is? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hoyle?
Through the mayor, just before I do my quick little talk here, reminder to register for the MIAC Cornhole. I think they still have openings for a few teams during Sports Fest. I did attend the Roma conference with the mayor, Mr. Bowles, and Mr. Long. One session, three of us took in was Beyond the Numbers, building a brave culture for asset management success. Basically dealing with all the pipes that we're fixing now and old infrastructure and some ways to pivot around how the investment in it now is better in the long run. Where in the past, well, we know what happened in the past. We're a prime example, right? The other part, I wish the people were here. I was the only one in the Roma Zone 3 meeting. That's with County of Brant, Hollerman, Hamilton, Niagara, Norfolk, Oxford, and the Six Nations. And we got on the topic of healthcare. I explained our situation that there's a master plan in 2016 that came out from NHS, or NH now. I talked that then the Ministry of Health okayed it in 2018, and then I think everyone put it a little bit on the back burner, and then now we were told we're closing this time, and now everyone's trying to scramble how to deal with it, how the healthcare is going to change, and all that. It was actually a great session for us, and there was a lot of people that are actually on board, and basically we got out of it was that municipalities weren't meant to take on healthcare, and that's what all of them really said, and that my concerns through the Roma representative, he conveyed it on to the Ontario Municipal meeting that was happening afterwards. So again, everyone says that we don't say anything about the healthcare here, and we're not promoting it or supporting all the stuff. I had an actual meeting with these people that passed it on through the other steps. Besides that, Mr. Long gave us a whirlwind of meetings, and in all those meetings, all of us conveyed the same things. We talked about health, transportation, infrastructure, development, public housing, daycare. It was, everything was on the board. We hit every minister we could get to. On the side of hitting all the ministers and associate ministers and all that, we did have a conversation with public health too. On the side, we also, with the mayor, we met other ministers that weren't part of the group, but by halfway through the whole conference, everyone knew what we wanted before we even got there. And when we walked in the door, they already knew. So it was like really easy the way we had the format down. Attended the provincial government reception. That's where we did some more with the mayor. We talked to more people. And then we finished up with Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative Roundtable. We are a member of it, and discussion focused on common challenges we face as stewards of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence. And that's just a summary of what the mayor already said, just a first.
That was good, Counselor. A lot of work gets done at these. I mean, people think you go away for fun. It's not. It's you're up at 7 and starting to meet at 8:30, and you're going till 6, 7 o'clock at night with your meetings, and then grab a quick meal, and then you're jumping in bed again because the next day starts the same way. So, but we did get a lot accomplished, as Tim alluded to, in my report we alluded to. These are where the things happen. And then all the other people that you meet that are there from other municipalities, and the ideas you get from them are just phenomenal. In the couple meetings that Tim was at with some of the plenaries, you learn a lot. And we've done that with between Good Roads and FCM, AMO, that councillors go to. So they're all good things that we go to and bring a lot of information back. So good job, Councillor. Councillor Danch.
Yeah, just a couple items there, kind of go along with Brian there in the Works Department there. I live on Neff Street and the water was just flying down the street. So the boys were out there working, and it was nice to see Works were giving a little extra effort with the plows and the salt for a couple of the neighbors there on the lower side of things. So just thanks again to them. Running up against a bit of a wall here with a couple bylaw situations. I think Mr. Bowles and I are gonna have a little sit down and see if we can shake the bushes here, because I'm getting a little tired, and so are some of the other people that are dealing with them, but that's for another day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick thing. I was pleased to represent you at Pocomar's AGM. Got a whole new appreciation for what they do. When you see the number of hours that that these guys and girls put in training and out on the water and everything, I think the highest number of volunteer, and it's all volunteer hours, was over 1,000 for one guy. And I sat there and started to think about it, like there's only 50 weeks in a year, and 1,000 hours is 20 hours a week on top of your work. And I thought, that's a heck of a commitment. They were talking about tearing their boats down and repairing the engines, because they do a lot of their own repairs. So it was eye-opening, and walked in and didn't really expect to see that many members there. But like I say, it was eye-opening, and got a real good appreciation for them. To Steve, thanks for looking after Homewood. They finally got all their equipment out of there, and it looks really good. Thanks for helping me out with the issue on West Street with the storage of the material from Rankin. So you made me look good, and that's not a really easy thing to do, because it takes a lot to make this look good. But don't disregard him on the end. But it really helped them. They had lost all their parking, so it was nice to see that back. And as soon as they took the materials away, like they had 3 or 4 people in the parking spots already. So it's much appreciated. And just one question that's always been on my mind I haven't asked: the water main on Sugarloaf, or at the end of West and Sugarloaf, what does that service? I was trying to figure that out.
Through you, Your Worship. So it was applied through a grant, I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago. And it does have a fire hydrant near the end there by the last building that's there, the West Marine building.
Okay.
So basically it's there, and there's anticipation that it could loop around to King Street, especially if there's further development in the area too. So with the grant potential for development, and then also have a servicing of fire hydrant in that area, especially where ships are docked, it was in the best interest to be able to keep that in there, especially with the grant money that was available at the time as well.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out, like, does it go along Sugarloaf? Does it come down West Street? Like, where does it go? And I was playing with my mind, so I just wanted to find out, so thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to ask a question of Chief Dudley. So I'd like to ask this of everybody that comes to Port Colborne as an employee. So what's your impression of outside the fire hall? We often learn a lot from people who come from the outside in. So I'm wondering if you have any gems to tell us, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, no bad and ugly. Turn the microphone on, please. Thank you. No bad and ugly, all good. Great people. Great people here, great people in the community, great staff. You have a tremendous staff that works here in Port Colborne. So my experiences have just been tremendous that way. And you don't get that in bigger cities. Yeah.
Good to hear. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, just have a personal experience that happened just post the holidays, and I've talked to the Director of Engineering in that. We've all been seized with water and wastewater, and one of our programs we have is replacing private site sewer laterals, and we have a grant program for it. So now in-law of mine experienced a leak, and he went through the process, and it was just prior to the holidays. And so I started looking at it and looking at the application form. I looked at what he had to produce, looked at what he would get, and then I kind of followed up with building department, where you have to get a building permit. I went online as if I was applying for a grant. I looked under grants, and of course there's hydro grants and now Port Colborne Community Fund grants, but nothing about water grants. So it is a little bit convoluted to find for grant. And it also has a bunch of conditions that I think probably could be shorted. The long and short of it is, I asked Matt Roy at Building, how many people participate in our program? And so in 2023, and so the program gives you $1,000 for water line, $1,000 for sewer, and if you do both, you get $3,000. So in 2023, we had 16 water applications, 8 wastewater for a total of 24. In 2024, we had 14 water, 4 wastewater for a total of 18 that went through the program. Now, that's not to say somebody who wanted to do it didn't recognize the program, didn't hear about it, didn't want to deal with the program, and did it themselves. I guess the point is that we've all been told by various consultants and reports that a lot of our leakage or infiltration is on the private side. So you have the main, our public side, and that. And, you know, if those numbers are high, then this program, I don't think is going to cut doing it. So I'd asked Mr. Bowles at the start of the meeting how many water, so I'll just deal with water, how many water users we have. It's approximately 6,000. So if you assume that, when I read some of the reports through the last year, that so much of our water mains are in good shape, reasonable shape, fair shape, and poor shape. So looking at that numbers, I took the 6,000 and I cut it in half. Because a bunch of places that have been built in the last 30 years, they don't need a replacement. So just at that rate, the 2024 rate, it would take 214 years at this rate to replace those laterals. Half that again and say there's only 1,500, you're at 107 years. And so I think we need to kick that into a higher gear. What I also learned was that to get on this list and to get the grant, you've got to apply for a building permit. So that's how we get these numbers. But a building permit now costs the minimum, I think it's, I got my numbers here somewhere. Here we go. It is $155 for the application, and then a $270 other fee, for a total of $425. So you take advantage of the program, you get $1,000, you pay $425 to be able to do it. It's really not much of an incentive. This particular gentleman who did it was a former Fort Erie resident, and they had kind of a unique thing where the town took the worst area on their main, so the oldest lines, and made the assumption that the laterals were put in at the same time. So they gave a double grant in the oldest area, which I thought was kind of impressive because it should be the low-hanging fruit. If those are the first places the town's going to put a new water line in, it's likely that those are original laterals. So I guess what I'd like to do is, whether it's a little subcommittee spitballing, Steve, with you and some of your people, could we get together and discuss and maybe come back to council with the report as to maybe how we could make the program easier to access, how we could make the most bang for the bucks on where it is, and perhaps look at for next year's budget upping the grant and cutting this down. I think it's a great program. I think it needs more profile, but I think the savings, if everything I've read and been presented through the years is also on the lateral side, I think we should be doing more. And remember, if we're putting in 2, the private sector, the private owner is putting in 2 or 3, we can leverage that money and do a lot more and a lot better. So I would hope we could do that and maybe set up a time and date. And if anybody has any input, it would be great.
Yes, through your worship, so I love the idea. What I'll suggest is, for the time being, we can gather a lot of the data that we have to get those older areas, start with the priority locations. But I'd really love to wait till we have the public open house for the water, wastewater, storm. And I think we can have some targeted questions to the public at that point, and we can really get their feedback as to what would make them buy into the program and what they want to see from it. I think it's a great opportunity to take this to the next level as well and get the public's feedback on it.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Baggett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add to Councillor Bruno's concerns, I went through the water lateral last year, the year before, and it was a hassle. I had to go back 3 months and ask where my money was. And basically they sent it to the wrong person, the contractor, instead of myself. But anyways, your application form definitely needs to be updated. I made that recommendation then, and I don't think it has been touched at all. So anyways, we'll go for it. I'd be gladly help with Councillor Bruno, meeting with you later on. So the other item is, I guess, kudos to Public Works and staff. The last snowfall we had, I know I brought up in December about some of the sidewalks that are adjoining right to the road, and our snow plows are going so fast, they're blowing off the sidewalks. The sidewalks are way too thick for the residents, even with the machines that residents buy, not commercials, but residential ones. And I must say, you guys get 10 out of 10 these snowfalls we had. Curtis, thank you very much. Your employees did a great job, and I was smiling as I was driving down Sugarloaf and Steel and King Street. So, kudos to you guys. Thanks. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Borgard. Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to welcome Chief Double to our staff, and I can tell you that my first council meeting went way worse than yours. So you're good, and I look forward to hearing your report in closed session. So welcome.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, on to motions. There are none. Any notices of motion? Okay, bylaws. We have bylaws 17.1, 17.2, and 17.3. If we could have Councilors Aquilina and Hoyle move that the following bylaws be passed and enacted as presented. Bylaw 73100125, bylaw 73110225, and bylaw 73120325. Questions on any bylaws? All in favor? That's carried. If I could have Councilors Elliott and Bodnar move that council do now proceed to meet in closed session under sections 2392B of the Municipal Act 2001, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered are personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Section 2392D of the Municipal Act 2001, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered is labor relations or employee negotiations. Section 2392I of the Municipal Act 2001, where a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being discussed is trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. Any question? All in favor? That's carried. So we will be moving into excuse me, into closed session, and we won't be coming back online. So we thank you for watching this evening, and you'll see us at our next meeting. Thank you.